Boston Public Library. This is not a drill. We hope you'll join us for a full hour of Ask the Mayor with Michelle Wu. She joins us during a busy moment for the mayor. Budget disputes with the council, battles over bike lanes, Beacon Hill indifference to the city, and new challengers planning to run against her in next year's election. It is all on the table.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Have your own question for the mayor? You can call or text us at 877-301-8970 or come down to the Boston Public Library yourself and ask in person. Later on, it's Trenni Casey from NBC Sports Boston, CNN's John King, State Auditor and singer Diana DiZoglio. All that and more ahead. Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Jordan's King Abdullah, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and the UN Secretary General are meeting in Jordan today. They're pressing for more aid to Gaza. NPR's Jane Araf has more from the Dead Sea.
King Abdullah said delivery of food, medicine, and other humanitarian goods to Gaza was facing obstacles at every level, and he called for a new method.
There is a need for a robust mechanism for coordination that engages all parties on the ground.
That's a reference to Israel, which controls Gaza's borders. UN and aid agencies say it's been obstructing aid deliveries. Israel says it needs to ensure that Hamas is not smuggling in weapons. King Abdullah said more aid needs to be stockpiled and ready to go in. After 8 months of war, almost the entire population of Gaza relies on aid to survive, and deaths from malnutrition are increasing. Jane Araf, NPR News, the Dead Sea, Jordan.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken has joined the aid conference in Jordan. He's hailing a resolution passed yesterday by the UN Security Council. It sets out a plan for a ceasefire in Gaza, although neither Israel nor Hamas have officially accepted the plan. President Biden will speak to a big gun violence prevention conference today. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports Biden is looking to highlight the work he's done to tackle gun violence.
The president will address survivors and victims of gun violence at the Everytown's Gun Sense University conference. President Biden is expected to announce the Department of Justice has charged more than 500 defendants for violating new gun laws created by the bipartisan Safer Community. The speech comes just weeks before the 2-year anniversary of the signing of the gun safety law that was passed following the 2022 mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. It was the first major federal gun legislation in years, creating new rules for dealers and the first ever federal Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
The president of Malawi says that Malawian Vice President Salis Chilima has died in a plane crash. The 9 other people aboard the plane also perished. They had been heading to a funeral when the pilot was advised to turn back to the capital. The plane went down in a forest. Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera says the plane had been used the day before and he's flown in it himself.
Despite the track record of the aircraft and the experience of the crew, something terrible went wrong with that aircraft on its flight back to Lilongwe, sending it crashing down and killing everyone on board.
The cause of the crash is not known, but there had been reports of poor visibility. On Wall Street, stocks are mixed. The Dow is down 170 points. The Nasdaq is up 26. This is NPR.
And good morning. You are listening to GBH, and it is just about 4 minutes after 11 o'clock. I'm Sonia Lee. I'm joined by Zach Finn. It is the first day of the GBH membership drive, our summer membership drive. And we are going to be getting to Boston Public Radio in just a moment. We're asking you to make a contribution to support your listening, especially as Jim mentioned, we are going the whole hour without fundraising interruption because the Mayor Wu, will be in with Jim and Marjorie at the Boston Public Library, and that is going to be fundraising free. So we are asking for your contribution now to help fund Boston Public Radio and a whole hour of with the mayor. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And today we're asking to join GBH by giving what you can. Your financial commitment will have a huge impact on the news and information you hear every single day. That's how we pay the bills and keep GBH going strong by getting a lot of listeners to give what they can. So please participate in ensuring GBH is always on the radio by giving right now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And today only you can support GBH and Boston Public Radio, and we're going to thank you with the latest edition of the Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. This is a limited offer, and if you want to get it during Boston Public Radio, this is the time to do it. The mug features a great picture of Jim and Marjorie, and it's very handsome, kind of black and white photo. Don't miss your chance to get the latest version of the Smug Mug. That's $10 a month as a sustaining member, or $120 all at once. Online, gbhnews.org. Check it out there, or 888-897-9424.
And giving just takes 2 minutes of your time. We need your name and contact information, which of course we keep private. You can sign up as a sustaining member with a reoccurring monthly payment from your bank account or your credit card. So you can do it. Get started right now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, which monitors safe driving habits to determine a personalized rate at Progressive.com. Not available in California or from all agents. This is NPR.
Eastern Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. We are finally back at the Boston Public Library. We are broadcasting live today.
Zoe is applauding,
yep.
I want you to know.
And we've got the fans going here, and we are streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. We're going to be joined by Ron Mitchell and Andre Stark of the Bay State Banner, and Imari Paris Jeffries, and Ibram X. Kendi, and Palestinian peace activist Ali Abu Awad as well. Good morning,
and by the way, we
Jim.
should say Kendi, and good morning to you. Jeffrey's here in advance of Juneteenth.
That is correct.
On the 19th. Joining us now at the desk is Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, world traveler. She's back. She's with us for the entire hour, taking our questions, your calls and texts at 877-301-8970. And if you're at the Boston Public Library, you can find our colleague Nicole, who has her hand up right there, and you can ask a question directly. So happy International Day of Play there, Mayor Wu. How are you?
Thank you. It's great to be back.
What is International?
Yeah, exactly.
What exactly is International Day of Play?
In fact, today is the first global International Day of Play, and it's really a focus on something I think it's almost a bit of a lost art in this age of so much structure for our little ones and families and devices and this and that. So it's really just about free play and creativity and how important that is for everything else, not only for the development of young people, but within our society. So in a little bit, right after this, I'm headed to City Hall Plaza, where we have a big setup. We'll have some of our Boston Public School students. Lego, the company, has been a big proponent behind the idea, and so they'll be out there with us sharing some resources, and obviously if there's any experts in play, they might be it. And so we brought some these are the official pins, so for you and producers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, you've got two young sons. Everybody I know that's got kids your age, a little older, a little younger, they're obsessed with what to do about phones. They're obsessed with what to do about iPads. How are you going to figure it out?
So this is an ongoing subject. My husband and I have decided, we've always tried to just limit devices wherever possible, but somehow the kids are still experts in, every time I open my phone, they have made videos of themselves that are on there, or taking pictures, or this or that, with every possible setting. And so they don't have phones, they don't have devices. We're gonna wait as long as possible before getting them there. I think social media itself is evolving and imploding, and it's worth it to just try to get some distance on that. But, we have lost our children before in public spaces, I will say. And so some days, I remember when I was little, when you needed to get picked up by mom or dad, you just had to sit outside, and you didn't know exactly when they would come.
Exactly.
And there's no way to communicate with them. Sometimes you could try to run inside the school and make a phone call if they were really late. But these days, some other parents have advised me you can get some version of a watch where they can just get only a text from you to coordinate or something. So we haven't figured out all the nuances and ins and outs.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Staying on play for a second, today I know is International Day of Play. Tomorrow is sort of national or local day of play, obviously Celtics game. This is the first watch party of its kind, at least in
Ever.
Boston. Describe I think it's a fabulous idea. Describe what's happening tomorrow night.
Yeah, I am so excited and thankful that the Garden, the Celtics, and the city have teamed up where, for the first time ever, we will be hosting a watch party inside TD Garden while the team is on the road. And so they'll be in Dallas, but we will be packing the Garden as usual. They'll have all the same food concessions available, performances. It will feel like everything about a home game, except obviously for the players. And I'm hoping that also translates, because the Celtics have had such a great home record that there's something about the energy that they will feel it. They'll get the vibes flying through the air, and fingers crossed, but they've been playing really well.
It's sold out, right?
It's both games, actually.
And it was only
Game
$18
three,
or
that's right.
something?
Yep.
Are you going?
I am going. We're going with the family for Game 3.
Fabulous.
Our number is 877-301-8970 if you want to call the mayor or text the mayor, or if you're down here at the Boston Public Library, our colleague Nicole is over there. She'll taking calls and questions, I should say, from people here at the library. I want to ask you before we get to the calls and the text, though. You were over with the governor in Rome for the climate event. I guess you got a chance to meet the Pope. But you also got to ride around one of these buses, Commute With Me series. And we have a little sound with you and your kids on the bus in Rome. Here it is.
Hi, it is a little before 1:30 p.m. in Rome. I'm here to commute with Blaze and Cass.
Anyone of you to speak Italian?
How much does it cost to ride the bus? Do you guys know?
We're free.
Kids are free under 10. And it's €1.50 for everyone else. You can just tap a credit card or use Apple Pay.
So this is one of your big initiatives. Certain bus lines are free for everybody, little kids and grown-ups. What was it like over there, transportation-wise, compared to here?
Well, whenever I'm outside the city, I try to take public transportation as much as possible and either feel very jealous about certain aspects of what other cities have, or feel a little bit reassured and take away some affirmation for Boston. The bus system and the subway system were, I found they were quite reliable. The train, very reliable. Every 2 minutes or so there was a new train that would come. The bus, very easy to get on, as you heard in that clip. I was most surprised that you didn't have to have any special ticket or anything like that. I used Apple Pay the entire time I was there. There's a little screen right when you get on the bus. You tap your phone or your credit card, and no barriers. The traffic there, though, was horrible.
Yeah.
So the bus, even just turning one corner, sometimes would be stuck there for a good chunk of time. So there's trade-offs, and I talked with the mayor of Rome about what they're doing on public transit. Very inspiringly, they are building multiple new stations and new lines to be able to better serve the city, because he said that there's just so much archaeological stuff that they have to protect. The stations actually have to go very deep underground so as not to ruin any of that. But in the process of building that, they then turn the stations into a museum at the same time, so you can kind of see the layers as you're going down into the station. So that was it. That was quite inspiring to think that a city as old as Rome is still striving to continue to improve their public transit system.
I also wanted to ask you about the Pope. We have Bill McKibben on. We're lucky enough to get him once a month or so, and he's a big, great environmentalist, as you know. And he said the best thing he ever read about climate change was written by Pope Francis, the Laudate Si thing. So you got a chance here. You're big green mayor here. He's a big green Pope. Did you get a chance even to talk about that when you were there?
Yeah, he came in the room. So he was in the room with all of the summit attendees. It was mayors and governors and leaders from around the world, scientists as well. And the first thing that he did was to give a fairly comprehensive and actually quite pointed speech about how urgent this issue is. And he delivered it in Italian, but they had passed out the English translation so everyone could kind of follow along as well. And he took it right to all of us that time is running out and the trade-offs are clear. And to have someone of his stature and representing not a particular political party or anything that the issue can become so politicized otherwise, but from a pure moral foundation, from a sense of our shared humanity, emphasizing how important this issue is, that is extremely powerful.
One thing before we get back to the calls, you mentioned, we're talking to Mayor Wu. She's with us for the full hour at 877-301-8978. Phone lines are full, but you can always text, or if you're here again, speak to Nicole. You mentioned how horrible the traffic is. Last week, at the last minute, with virtually no warning, the governor of New York State essentially killed something we talked to you about last month, congestion pricing. New York was supposed to be the first major experiment in the United States. Every detail had been worked out, I's dotted, T's crossed, all that sort of thing. It seems to me that that's sort of the death knell for congestion pricing, at least I don't mean just in New York, but sort of puts a pall over it for everybody. Is that a fair takeaway?
It was a big shock to read what had happened, and certainly now that I'm in this role, I have a sense of how many deeply complex factors go into a decision that sometimes the public just can't understand at all. But for something that had been planned for over a significant time period, and even in Rome, the governor was there. There were 3 U.S. governors, Massachusetts, Governor Healy, and then California and New York were also there. And it was part of, it was heralded as a major climate step as
with
well.
Her there?
So I did not get to stay for the entirety of her remarks because I had a conflict, but as in the presentation and some of that was definitely a reason why New York was being highlighted, and to see that pull back, it was going to give us a lot of information in other parts of the country about how to properly fund and finance public transportation, which systems everywhere are looking for stable revenue sources, as well as what it would mean for health and reducing pollution and traffic. Rome, when I talked to the mayor, Rome has what they call ZTL, a limited traffic zone, where there are different concentric rings across the city and restrictions around what types of vehicles can enter each one, and it's very, very tight in the kind of historic city center. But there's also a pollution provision attached to it, where if they monitor the levels every day, and if pollution gets above a certain level within those zones, on one day, even cars with even number, ending in an even number on their license plate, are not able to drive, and then they rotate it for the odd ones the next time around. But they're very much connected around air quality and traffic and what that means for public health.
But is this not, last question on this, this is going to cause, I assume, people like you to pause, even if they think it's a good idea based upon what happened there, or no?
I don't know. I mean, I think that could go either way. I know that, sometimes New York is the last place we want to look to in terms of our Boston pride. And so, yes, it's in some ways, it would have provided information and data that I think other places were looking to understand better. And once there's any proof of concept, it just makes the next one that much easier because of that. But does this mean, Boston's situation or any other state situation is very different from New York. So it's hard to know exactly what went into that. And I don't think it's a no anywhere around the country.
Remind 30 seconds only. I'm sorry, because I forgot what you said last month. My apologies. Where were you in terms of looking at this issue?
I think all tools should be on the table, including congestion pricing. However, the key about congestion pricing is that you need to have a reliable alternative so that it doesn't just become a fee or a fine for traffic, but that you're also incentivizing and encouraging that public transportation option.
Fine. By the way, CNN is reporting the jury has reached a verdict in the Hunter Biden case after deliberation for maybe an hour and a half. I think an hour yesterday and almost no time today. We'll obviously bring you that as soon as it happens. Aaron and
I think they.
Guilty. I'm sorry. Guilty. They just said
all counts.
Guilty on all counts. This is the issue of him checking a box saying he was not addicted when he bought a gun, and the potential penalty is up incredibly, up to 20 years in prison. Aaron in Dorchester, you're first on Boston Public Radio with Mayor Michelle Wu. Hey.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. And Jim, I'm a Boston Public School teacher, proud union member, and please keep up your advocacy for union teachers. We need it. We really appreciate everything.
You're really
you say in
talking
our
to
defense.
Marjorie, Aaron. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
we'll have that discussion.
I'm ready to have my mind changed,
But thanks.
Aaron, but
What do you
probably
have-
not today.
What do you have for the mayor, Aaron? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. And thanks, Mayor Wu. As I mentioned, I've been a BPS teacher for 14 years now. I have 3 quick questions. I'll try to be as quick as I can. First, why has Boston Public Schools, in our contract negotiations, refused to end this practice, unique among urban districts in the U.S., of forcing one teacher to use multiple licenses to teach ESL students and students on IEPs with no extra compensation or support? Second, why has BPS refused to budge on its insulting 2% cost of living increase proposal after years of 6%, 7%, and 8% inflation?
And 3?
Finally, why has Boston Public Schools refused to guarantee that our schools have doors that securely lock? As a BPS parent, you are surely horrified by your own position on this issue?
Aaron, thank you. We got it. We have it. There are a lot of questions. The mayor is prepared to answer them all. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. So thank you so much for your service in doing the most important job that there can be, making sure that our young people are reaching their full opportunity. Okay, I don't have a paper and pen, so I think I'm going to remember the 3, but someone is going to have to remind me if I forget one of them. On the licensure issue, I know, again, negotiations are negotiations, so I can't get into all the details. We have had a very regular and robust rhythm to how we've been working to try to get all the issues on the table with the BTU and sort through them, and this has certainly been a big one. I think as almost everyone I talk to within the district agrees, how BPS and how the city have been providing services for students with disabilities has not met the mark over a long time, and so we really want to make sure that we are providing inclusive environments and reducing the sub-separate settings as much as possible, and that has to work for the young people, the families, and for our educators, of course. So I know this is an active point of discussion that we are working through, and there have been different proposals traded back and forth, and I imagine we will continue to do so. So rest assured that one is firmly on the list of things that we are working through, and certainly here that is important to our educators. Thank you. Secondly, on the 2%, what do I think our teachers should be paid? Probably more than just about every other job in the world. The city budget in general is significantly hampered by Prop 2.5. And so back several decades ago when there were limits put on the city of Boston and other municipalities in Massachusetts where we could only increase the rate of we could only increase the taxes collected, our revenues collected on our most stable and significant source, property taxes, by 2.5% each year. That has been far, far under inflation, and we have a legal requirement to have a balanced budget and to be within that 2.5%. So that is the biggest, just in terms of what the city has in terms of resources, that's the biggest barrier and limiting factor there. And so over the pandemic years, we really worked through ESSER and some of the federal funding sources and other ways to say we are going to really find ways to sacrifice, to recognize all that our educators and frontline workers did to be able to have those larger increases. But unfortunately, that is not a sustainable practice given the larger limits on the revenues that the city can bring in and therefore has available to use as salary and compensation. And so, but we are doing our best to try to find common ground in all the other areas that the BTU and our educators want. And then in terms of locks and security, this is absolutely a priority. We know that, God forbid, a situation might come up by public safety within our schools and classrooms. There just has to be that level of security. So I will check in on that one in particular to see where we are. I know that is something that certainly from a values and sort of baselines perspective should be there, but in terms of details, I will make sure I'm updated all the way.
Aaron, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
One follow-up on the schools thing. there are fewer schools, there are fewer kids in the Boston Public Schools, and apparently there are a lot of buildings that don't have enough kids in them. I know it's very hard to shut down schools because people get attached to their schools and they want their kids to stay in the school. But you're taking some criticism on that. We need to shut down schools in Boston, and it's just politically very hard, so we're not going to do it.
Yeah, okay, so this is a really important topic, and I appreciate the chance to share some of how we see this issue, because I think for a long time it's been presented from a certain way that frankly I believe the superintendent and district see it slightly differently. So enrollment has gone down, right? That is true across every major district. It's families having fewer kids, it's many more options, and so the numbers have gone down significantly in terms of the number of students we have and versus the number of buildings and spaces that we have. However, the problem in my eyes is not that we have too many seats compared to the number of kids. It's actually that we have too few highest quality seats for the number of students that we have, especially when you get into the specific needs of the populations that we serve in the Boston Public Schools. And so when you think about seats for students with specific disabilities or seats for students who are in that 18 to 22-year-old range who need an alternative education track or placement, many of those programs had been actually dismantled over the last decade or so. And so if you see the problem as we just have too many seats, it's too expensive, of course you would say the solution is, well, close schools as quickly as possible, save some money, that fixes it. But if the problem is actually we have too few high quality seats compared to the students, just closing schools doesn't mean that you're going to improve the situation for the students who are now facing a lot of disruption. We need to make changes within our school portfolio and our school buildings. And it's not because we need to save some dollars here and there, right? I personally believe, although you have to make every dollar stretch, and as I was saying to our educator, there are limits, we need to find the funding to do what we need to do, right? So just saving some dollars is never going to be the primary motivator for how we make decisions within the Boston Public Schools. But the challenge here is that you're not getting the highest quality experience when you're in a half-empty school building. You're not getting the highest quality experience when you're in a very, very small school with just one class per grade, and you can't offer all of the choices of different academic offerings. You can't field a basketball team and a volleyball team at the same time because you just don't have enough students. And so we've actually spent the last 2.5 years, for the first time ever, putting together a real-time database of where each building and each asset within that building stands. Or when was the last time the boiler was replaced, the roof, so we know exactly where changes need to be. We also now know each building has a score in terms of the high quality student experience. If it's too small, if it doesn't have this or that type of performing arts space or science lab, that is now all counted and transparently available so everyone can see where those buildings stack up. And we also have a rubric that was developed for the first time ever where you can see the impacts of, in this neighborhood, if you were to close the school and rebuild it here, or if you were to expand or merge these two schools together, what are the demographics of young people who would be impacted and what grades and all of that. So the building blocks are now there in a way that we have never had before as a district. And so in order to be at the place where we now move all the pieces around, I and the superintendent need to be sure that when a school, should it be merged, closed, consolidated, expanded, that those students who will experience extreme disruption from their routines and all of that, that they are then going to have a better experience where they are placed next, rather than just shuffled around and the district supposedly saves some money, which at the end of the day, when you make decisions like that, it hardly ever shakes out right away to be financially what you thought. So we are building in fact the infrastructure for some of that supportive programming around multilingual programs, alternative education that had been dismantled, so that those seats are there and that we can be sure when moves are made, the community understands, they are part of owning the decision making, and also are sure that the alternatives and the next placements will be the high quality experience that they do deserve.
We're talking to Mayor Michelle Wu. She's with us until noon. Andy in Boston, you're on next with the mayor. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. And I love listening to you. Mayor, we appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I wanted to talk to you about two different kind of related issues. I live in the Back Bay, and we're an empty nester couple that has a nice condominium. I appreciate all the support you've given to housing for underserved people around the city. But on the flip side of that, the people that work really hard to pay our taxes, to support our condominium and things like that, we feel kind of neglected on the other side and taken advantage of. And that's sort of in two ways, possibly unrelated. Number one, the roads around the whole city of Boston are kind of like a third world country, literally. And it's incredibly frustrating anywhere you go. And I'd like to think we're a first-rate city, and the roads certainly don't make me feel that way. And then number two, the potential property tax that you want to put on the sale of properties within Boston, I think is a real detriment to property values. And again, you're going to take advantage of people that have worked hard, built afford condominiums that are above $1 million, and then you're going to penalize them on the flip side if they want to get out. Where on the other hand, we haven't even had the property value rise that the suburbs have had. So a lot of people are probably going to break even at the end of the day when they go to sell their condominium. So they're related, but they're not related kinds of issues that I see.
Andy, we got it. So it's streets, and we were going to broach the real estate transfer tax, and so you can
Great.
do both, Mayor.
All right,
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you for calling in, and we need to make sure, Boston's a city of neighborhoods, and every single neighborhood and every community should feel like they're getting top-notch city services and resources for basic quality of life. So particularly if you can reach out to my office, you can contact your Back Bay neighborhood liaison as well. We are wanting to get right on top of any roadway issues that are identified. Having specifics is very helpful because sometimes it can be, even within 24 hours, there might be some trouble spots that we can go out and take care of. If it's a larger roadway resurfacing issue, then getting that in the queue is helpful as well. We are definitely working our way through making sure that crosswalks and all of the sidewalk infrastructure are smooth and updated. We now have specific contracts for repairing brick sidewalks that hadn't been in place before, so we can make sure that those are safe and look beautiful in addition. So we definitely prioritize delivering excellent city services and love to get that feedback, especially specific locations. In terms of the transfer fee, so just so you have a sense of where this is, there was a state proposal, which I think is what you're referring to with the $1 million threshold. Boston's proposal was actually a little bit different, although I think much of your comments still apply. We had put forward a home rule petition around a $2 million threshold and 2% fee at the point of sale. Now, my focus on trying to make sure that housing is available is not just targeted at one particular economic group or one particular community. We are all potentially suffering if Boston's housing crisis worsens. It means that businesses won't be able to locate here and retain and recruit talent to be able to afford here. It means that even if you have been able to purchase your home and have solid footing, to think about how your kids or grandkids might one day afford to live in the city of Boston is still quite stressful in any neighborhood of the city. And so we believe that having the resources that we've had from federal recovery funds has boosted home ownership, has made it possible for us to do more for homeowners and renters across the economic spectrum. But keeping that funding going with a reliable source of funds is very, very important. We've actually done significant research on this. There have been consultants and reports and lots of Boston-specific data analyzed about whether this would impact property values or sales or anything like that, and it was found not to have any detrimental impact at the small level of fee that we were putting forward at the point of sale when those funds are liquid and available. So I know sometimes it feels like any additional cost is a burden, and I completely respect that. This is part of making sure that we can be a livable city, not just for those who currently have a place in Boston, but for all future generations as well.
Can we stay on this for a minute before we take a break? The House of Representatives the other day rejected the Healy portion of her housing bond bill. While they increased the total from $4 to $6 billion, they basically stripped it of virtually all tenant protections. They eliminated the real estate transfer tax, which leads me to believe they're going to reject your home rule petition as well. They ignored your rent control proposal, which they had to approve. You were successful in getting the city council to support your property tax shift the other day. That, from what I understand, needs legislative approval. And I'm not speaking for you, but Marjorie and me, the real estate lobby seems to have a hell of a lot of power up on Beacon Hill. So two things. One, do you honestly think this property tax shift has a snowball's chance in hell of getting through this legislature? And two, how do you react to the fact, I know we've asked this before, that you suggest things, you're the duly elected mayor of the city, the people on things like rent control, something like 70% of the people in Boston support it, and they decide that if a rep in Fitchburg doesn't like it, Boston can't have it. So two things. One, what are the prospects for your property tax shift? And two, how do you react to the legislature basically giving you the middle finger, for lack of a better expression, on virtually everything you're proposing there, Ms. Mayor?
So on the tax shift, I would say my job is to be clear about what the city needs and then to do everything possible in my power to make it happen. How we have been pursuing this tax shift is a little bit unorthodox because, for better or worse, especially with larger decision-making bodies like a legislature of so many people, things often happen at the moment of extreme urgency, right? The budget gets done in a few days of really getting to the trading back and forth, and something happens after a major emergency or a flood or natural disaster. And in fact, we are unusually going up for this authority before the potential emergency, right? We won't know until later in this calendar year whether commercial property values will drop enough to trigger the need for extraordinary tools to maintain the balance between our residential and commercial property owners. If things go well, we wouldn't need this at all. And if we had the tool and we apply it, it would be like 20 years ago when the city did this and got the power from the legislature and no one noticed it because it just maintained the balance that has been in place for all times, rather in managing through a shock. So in fact, there are, what happened last time, 20 years ago, they waited until after they had all the numbers. Then they sent 2 property tax bills to each property owner. One said, if the legislature takes action, you will pay this much. If the legislature doesn't take action, you will pay this much. And that was, I think, stressful for people to be able to plan and to get that very confusing message in the mail. But it did provide that point of urgency. We are trying to be responsible and thoughtful and give enough time to go through the entire process and not just rush up there with that sort of immediate crisis. And I haven't given up on the legislature now that the city council has acted, understanding that this is a crucial way that we need to continue to protect residents. We cannot afford dramatic shocks in the property taxes for our residents. And on the commercial side, this is just about evening it out so they would pay less of a decrease than they otherwise would have. And so I think we haven't had the chance to present that case yet of the specific numbers up at the State House, and I look forward to being able to do that.
But how about the other things you have proposed and they've rejected?
Yeah, I mean,
on the housing front in
so
particular.
We'll see what the Senate is going to put forward in terms of their response to the housing bond bill. It was a big deal that the governor and her administration presented so many of these priorities. I mean, that was a huge shift and a first for it to be officially part of one of the 3 proposals between House, Senate, and governor. And I mean, I agree. These are broadly popular measures. The residents of our city certainly know that we need them. And If you ask anyone in the community, what is your number one stressor? Housing is 9 times out of 10 what will come out of people's mouths. We need every possible tool to be able to do this, and we're not going to give up.
So why does the legislature say no if the argument, in your estimation, is so overwhelmingly in favor?
I think there are different communities with different needs. There are different legislators who are facing different electoral pressures this election year. There are different dynamics, therefore, in an odd year versus an even year, and they have a lot of, they're juggling a lot of different priorities right now. This is our third time up at the State House with this particular transfer fee provision, and we made it further than we ever have before, and we are going to keep doing it and making the case that all of what we've been able to accomplish with federal funding is going to go away in the next 2 years if we don't have a funding source.
You know, I can't resist pointing out here, so Mayor is not going to say this, but the real estate lobby has been relentless in pushing a lot of false information about what this would mean to homeowners. We talked about this yesterday. They're very powerful, and they give a lot of money to legislators. But I just want to ask you...
Well, on that point, I do want to say, sometimes what can... it can be just a little irksome for me is that the way that items are covered in the media can feel so different from how they're perceived out in the community. And so I think, what was it? It was the tax classification, our residential tax relief proposal. When it passed, one of the headlines said, "Controversial measure goes through the city council." And it, in fact, was not controversial at all in any of the neighborhoods or any of the spaces I talked about. There are people whose job it is to lobby for as low corporate taxes as possible. That is how they feed their own families. That is what they are always going to push for, no matter what the impact is of that policy on people besides the companies that they represent. And when you are a lobbyist and that is your role, of course we expect them to speak up in that way, but a few of those entities speaking up doesn't mean that something is all of a sudden controversial when the vast majority of real people and residents know that this is a policy that is important.
Okay, we're speaking with the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. She's going to be with us until the top of the hour. We're going to be right back after a quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Regal Music Theater, presenting Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific. Centering on two love stories, the musical confronts racial prejudice amidst the devastation of war. Starts June 14th. Tickets at regalmusictheater.org. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from medical bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov. And Brighton Farmers Market, Wednesday afternoons from 2 to 6:30 on Brighton Common in Boston, June through October, featuring a variety of local foods, farm-fresh produce, children's activities, and live music. And Powell Fine Art Advisory, curators of Address to the Moon, now on view at Gallery Naga. Visitors can discover the moon's profound impact as an aesthetic symbol, embodying the soul of an era and our enduring cultural fascination.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. For the remainder of this hour, we're joined, as we are monthly, by the mayor of Boston to answer your questions, etc. Before Marjorie has a follow-up there, do you want to take 30 seconds and just announce that you're running for re-election? You want to get that out? No, seriously, you want to get that out of the way?
Is this going to be a monthly feature now?
Yes, it is, actually. It is going to be a monthly feature. You can end it, by the way, right?
I love my job. We have a lot of important things that we're working on. When the time is right, I'm sure there will be time for announcements and campaigning. But for now, I'm focused on doing what I was elected to do and serving the people of Boston.
Nice try, Jim. Go ahead, Marjorie.
So just one thing in terms of the money that the city needs. Many people know we are full of colleges and universities and schools and churches. And there's something called payment in lieu of taxes, where the city asks for people that don't have to pay taxes, like Windsor School, to contribute. And sometimes they can offset what they pay by their community benefits. But the Windsor School, which is a very expensive private school, and Roxbury Latin, another very expensive private school, at least according to the fiscal year 2023 educational pilot contributions, are contributing nothing toward the amount of money that the city's asked them for, which is a lot of money, millions of dollars. When you add all this up, and the other Catholic colleges, maybe since you just talked to the Pope, you could call them up and ask them. Boston College, I think it's like 85 and 90 grand now to go to Boston College. They're only paying 23% of what you ask. Boston College High School is paying 50%. Some of them are paying it's better than what it was, but they're basically saying, no, we're not going to contribute in some of these cases, or only contribute part of what you ask. Is there any way to embarrass these people any more than maybe I just did into contributing what they should?
So the larger issue here is that Boston has a lot of land within the city that is occupied by nonprofits. And that can be a really great thing because we have a lot of community opportunities that they create, and a lot of this is education and healthcare and cultural institutions. But it does mean that the taxable property for purposes like paying our teachers and police officers and filling potholes then is even further limited. And so the pilot program is actually a voluntary ask. It's basically just a pretty please from the city to go above and beyond what is not legally required at all. Because they are designated as not-for-profits, they don't have any obligation to pay the city or public entities in taxes. But in recognition of the role that the city does play in providing public safety or roadway support or many of the services that we deliver, there was a program created where the city had an official ask of, we ask for 25% of what you would pay if you were not designated as a nonprofit in property taxes. And various institutions fill that to various degrees.
We
depending
do.
On
GBH pays. GBH, you say 100%. We're paying 100% here at GBH.
And that matters. It feeds right into the city budget, and then therefore allows us to better serve these institutions as well. I think there are a couple places we're trying to tweak the program. One is that cultural institutions have been included since the beginning, and most cities around the country actually provide funding for their museums and zoos and all of that, rather than asking them to pay the city. And so that's why with our free access program, we'd like to move towards a model where these institutions are directly opening doors and contributing to young people and families, but without just making that cash payment, because it's a little bit counterintuitive. For hospitals and universities especially, some of them operate more like for-profit entities than nonprofit. They charge tuition, they charge patients, they get reimbursements from insurance. And so there has been an understanding that they should contribute something. We are working to revamp the program, update the levels, and potentially be clearer about the ways that their contributions would actually help them as well. With some of the universities, we're talking about being specific about a housing fund potentially through the pilot program, because they know that housing is a challenge for their students and faculty as well, and finding a way where we can come to a better understanding of why it matters to have those funds and how we collectively recognize their contributions and their responsibilities is the hope over the next few months.
Well, Harvard's hanging by a thread, so you can't ask them for any money. Bobby in Wakefield, you are next on Boston Public Radio with the mayor.
Good morning, Mayor Wu. Thank you for being here. I work in Back Bay. I commute there just about every day, sometimes by car, sometimes by bike. And I just wanted to thank you for all the bike lanes that you've added. And I'm especially looking forward to the new bike lane on Boylston Street. That being said, there are a lot of cars and cyclists that break rules. And I'm wondering if there's any plans to increase enforcement on both.
Amen.
Great. Well, Bobby,
thanks.
You should move to Boston so you can vote here. I appreciate your support for bike lanes and for finding ways to move more people on our roadways more efficiently. Every major city around the country, around the world, is struggling with traffic, as we've already talked about, and that can have a huge economic impact, a huge mental health and sort of emotional impact for commuters as well. And there are a number of ways that Boston Police and the Transportation Department and the city are trying to prioritize smoother operation on the streets, even as we're working on infrastructure. You might have seen that we've identified delivery vehicles, particularly the scooters and some of the motorized bikes, as one place where we hear very frequently from residents about laws not being followed, driving the wrong way on roads, or darting back and forth. We know that this is not, often the drivers are just under extreme time pressure from the companies that they work for to fulfill a certain number of deliveries in a short amount of time. And so we've actually gone straight to those large companies with food delivery services to speak directly with them and be clear about communicating the consequences of legal violations. Same thing with cars on the road and all of our road users. We believe that the more the design of the street is clear about how to be safe, the more people will behave appropriately and safely. It's one thing if there's no designated bike infrastructure and you're just trying to take your life into your own hands, dodging vehicles and doing what you need to do to stay alive. It's a different thing if there is a separated lane that is just for cyclists and you don't have to worry about human error on the side of the drivers. And so on many of these roadway redesign changes, we know it does take enforcement just to also help people settle into understanding what the different markings mean and who's supposed to use what lanes and where the parking is and all of that. So that's been a key part of helping to redesign the streets and then make sure that the flow is working well.
Bobby, thank you very much for the call. I forgot, 1 o'clock hour today, we have the auditor here, Diana DiZoglio, who is likely to have a question on the ballot, which would arguably give her the power, subject to potential constitutional challenge, to audit the legislature. You voting for it?
I haven't decided yet. I think that we have a certain system of separation of powers, and some of the documentation so far has been clear that we have different mechanisms as voters. But I haven't thought all the way through about me just as a private citizen, what I'll do.
Did I see you dancing at the Pride Parade? I was looking at TV. It looks like wasn't you dancing at the...
I might have danced a little bit.
Is there anything else? What else we do other than this phenomenal parade where there were 1 million people in town, it appears, obviously, over the weekend? What else is the month have in the store on your front?
There's a lot happening. We have, I think actually tomorrow, there is a big event that the city is hosting. There's something at the Museum of Science. It's called STEM, but STEM in this case stands for Slay the Entire Month. So it's a great partnership that we're trying to make programming available. If you go to boston.gov/LGBTQ, all of the events are there for Pride Month and all the ways that you can get involved.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to, I don't know if we have time, but we always get a lot of these questions when you're here about people being mad because they say there are all these homeless people that don't have places to live, and yet we're sheltering all these migrants. So we have several of those. So what's your response to that?
Quickly.
We don't have enough housing in general in this city. That's why we're fighting for the transfer fee and resources wherever possible. And we're a community that has been built up of welcoming others and recognizing their talents and abilities. We know that we need to have more housing in order to accommodate all of that talent and ability affordably as well. So our shelter systems are incredibly stretched right now, and that is because of the need, particularly around the opiate crisis and mental health and homelessness that we've seen for a number of years, but then the additional capacity that's needed for individuals who don't qualify for the state's family shelter system, who have immigrated to the U.S. and to Boston. We are needing to take some extraordinary measures, have already expanded capacity, and certainly feel the strain at the local level.
Before you go, I was going to promote this book event that you're apparently doing tonight. The book is The Hollow Parties, The Many Pasts and Disordered Present of American Party Politics with Daniel Schlossman and Sam Roosevelt. Sounds fascinating, but it's sold out. So I guess I won't.
It's at the Athenaeum.
What's the book? Quickly.
There is a wait list.
Oh, at the Athenaeum.
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
And it's, maybe it's just asking for punishment for myself as a participant in the middle of the system, reading about the historic decline of our party system and how in this moment there's basically hollow shells that have led to different challenges on the Democrat side and the Republican side, but the two authors, who are political scientists and also very civically engaged, do present some potential next steps for how to rebuild that sense of community, civic engagement, and save our democracy.
Fabulous. So so there is a wait list. People can check it out.
You can, Beacon Hill Books website.
Fabulous. It's nice to see you, Mayor
Thank you very
Wu.
much,
Thank you
Mayor
for having
Wu,
me,
coming
as
Pleasure
always.
to see you.
That was, of course, the voice of Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, who's kind enough to join us every month. After the noon news, we're going to talk with NBC Sports Boston Trenni Casey about all things Celtics, of course, and also how come basketball superstar Caitlin Clark was not invited to join the Olympic team, the American Olympic team in Paris. All that and more up ahead. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This is the GBH Summer Membership Drive. We're taking just a few moments right now to ask for your contribution. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm joined by Jack Callahan.
And we're now looking for just 6 more contributions to go in about the next 4 minutes to put the wraps on this hour. Hitting each of these hourly goals helps us stay on track so that we have the dollars at the end of the drive needed to keep us informed throughout the next several months and throughout the summer. Please help keep the news and BPR that you trust on the radio right now by giving. You do that by going to gbhnews.org or give us a call at 888-897-9424.
Support GBH and get the newest Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. This is a limited offer for just this first day of the membership drive. The mug features a handsome picture of Jim and Marjorie with boxes checked for verifiable, reliable, undeniable, along with the GBH Boston Public Radio logos. Sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month and show that you're a fan of BPR with the newest edition of the Smug Mug. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And you've just been enjoying a full hour with the mayor here with Jim and Marjorie, uninterrupted for fundraising, because we knew that our listeners would understand the importance of giving even when we couldn't stop in the middle and to ask for your support. It is the end of the hour, and we are asking for your support to hit this hourly goal because the dollars are equally vital as being informed. Please take action right now and help ensure that we have the dollars at the end of this hour by calling 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And that goal right now is to receive 4 more contributions in the next 3 minutes. We need the financial support of everyone who relies on GBH to make this membership drive a success. So please give at gbhnews.org or give us that call, 888-897-9424.
Yeah, we rolled out this mug. The first time we offered it was in the spring. It was one of the most popular ever here at GBH, especially for BPR listeners. The mug features a handsome photo of Jim and Marge with those boxes checked off for verifiable, reliable, undeniable, along with the GBH and Boston Public Radio logos. Your support right now at $10 a month or a one-time gift of $120. We'd love to send you this newest edition of the Smug Mug. You do that by calling 888-897-9424 or making the gift online at gbhnews.org.
And hey, giving just takes 2 minutes of your time. We need your name and your contact information, which of course we keep private. You can sign up as a sustaining member with a reoccurring monthly payment from your bank account or your credit card. You can make a one-time gift as well. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Hey, I want to thank Lara from Arlington for doing her part, and she took a moment to say, GBH is a dependable news source, and I listen almost daily. It's informative and entertaining. She loves it. She took action on what she loves. How about you? 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
And support GBH. And again, you're going to get the newest Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. It's a limited offer for this first day of the membership drive. You're running out of time here, so you want to act on that. Sign up as a sustaining member, $10 a month. Show you're a fan of BPR with this newest edition of the Smug Mug. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Okay, we're now down to just 2 more contributions to go in about the next 2 minutes to wrap up the hour. Please do your part right now by showing your support for BPR with Jim and Marjorie each weekday here, 3 hours a day. And we're asking you to help make sure that GBH can continue to bring this program to you and to everyone who loves it. 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And the monthly sustaining membership is the preferred way to support GBH. It's so quick, so easy to set up. You just pick an amount for a recurring charge from your bank account or your credit card. It's that easy. Many folks start out by giving maybe $10 a month. You can get the Smug Mug today, too, at $10 a month. So please take that few minutes right now. Sign up, gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424, and thank you.
Funding for our programs comes from you and Rockland Trust Bank, dedicated to providing advice and support to the community for over 115 years. More at rocklandtrust.com. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC. And Mass General Cancer Center, dedicated to providing the latest therapies and cancer specialists who are experienced in your cancer. When you hear the word cancer, their team is ready. Learn more at massgeneral.org/cancer.
We're the Girl Scouts from Eastern Massachusetts. And you're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR.
What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Boston Public Radio, live from the library with all of our fans here, as in, like, cooling fans. The Celtics doubters are beginning to find faith after Sunday's win against Dallas, up 2-0 in the NBA Finals. But there's still a lot of basketball ahead. But not for Caitlin Clark when it comes to the Olympics. We'll talk about that and more with NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey.
I'm Marjorie Egan. After that, it's State Auditor Diana DiZoglio, just a week out from a major deadline in her ballot question push to audit the state legislature. Then we're closing out the show with you, inspired by machine gun spitting Martha Ann Alito, new secret recordings of Mrs. Alito vowing revenge on neighbors critical of her far-right flag flying fetish. We're opening phone and text lines to hear about your own heated neighbor disputes. All that and more ahead. Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
For the first time in U.S. history, a sitting president's son has been convicted of a crime in federal court. Today, a jury found Hunter Biden guilty on all 3 felony gun charges against him. NPR's Ryan Lucas reports a defendant was accused of lying about his drug use when he purchased a handgun several years ago. The case taking place in Delaware.
The verdict handed down by the jury caps a week-long trial at the federal courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. Hunter Biden's attorney had argued that the government failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the president's son knowingly lied about his drug use when he purchased a Colt revolver in October 2018. But after listening to 5 days of testimony, the jury found the evidence convincing enough to return a verdict of guilty. This trial is the first of 2 prosecutions against Hunter Biden brought by Justice Department Special Counsel David Weiss. The president's son is also scheduled to go on trial on federal tax charges in California in September. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Wilmington, Delaware.
President Biden, who is facing re-election, has said he would not pardon his son. Less than 2 weeks ago, former President Donald Trump was convicted of all charges at his criminal trial in New York, 34 felony counts related to hush money payments. Trump's sentencing is in July, just days before he's expected to accept the GOP's presidential nomination. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's telling Arab leaders they should press Hamas to agree to a 3-part plan for peace in Gaza. He says Israel wants the deal. Here's NPR's Michelle Kellerman.
Secretary Blinken says Israel's prime minister is committed to getting the ceasefire proposal to the finish line. It calls for a 6-week ceasefire and talks on a permanent truce. Hamas wants guarantees of a permanent ceasefire now. Blinken says everyone should press Hamas to agree to the deal backed by the UN Security Council.
I think we all know there is no time to waste, given the hell that hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are enduring every single day.
Blinken was speaking at a conference in Jordan where he announced more than $400 million in aid for Gaza and urged Israel to let in more aid. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
Federal Reserve policymakers are meeting today in Washington, D.C. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the central bank has been keeping interest rates high in an effort to tamp down inflation.
The central bank is expected to hold interest rates steady this week, but markets will be watching for any signal about future rate movements. Fed policymakers will release updated economic forecasts tomorrow afternoon. Also tomorrow, the Labor Department will report on what happened with inflation in May. April saw a modest slowdown in price hikes, but the Fed wants to see more progress before it starts cutting interest rates. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Dow is down 240 points. It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. New homeowners here in Massachusetts spend more to fix up their house in the first 6 months than any other state. That's according to a new national survey published today by Angie, a home improvement platform. Co-founder Angie Hicks says due diligence is critical for first-time buyers.
Having a home inspection, attending the home inspection, asking questions, learning about your house. First-time homeowners are more likely to do that than repeat homeowners. But despite that education, they were still feeling that they were surprised by things that would pop up.
The report says Massachusetts residents spend an average of 4.6% or 0.46% on the purchase price of repairs and renovations. That's higher than neighboring states like Connecticut, where the average is 0.37% of home cost. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to address a joint session of Congress next month as his country's war with Hamas heads into its 10th month. Two people who aren't rushing to save seats for the event are Massachusetts lawmakers Catherine Clark and Jake Auchincloss. Mass Live reports that both are wondering if Netanyahu will still be prime minister by July 24th, the date of the address, and Auchincloss says that with the situation on the ground in Gaza constantly in flux, he's going to wait until about the week before the speech before he makes up his mind on whether to attend. Red Sox back at Fenway tonight for the start of a series with the Phillies. The Celtics are getting ready for Game 3 of the NBA Finals in Dallas tomorrow. Tip-off is at 8:30. Gang Green leads the series 2-0, and the watch parties at the TD Garden for Wednesday and Friday are sold out. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Nature Conservancy, working across oceans and isles to cut carbon emissions, protect lands and waters, and support local communities for a future where people and nature thrive. nature.org/solutions.
Here's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are back gratefully at the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. I want to clarify something because Trenni and I were talking during the break. I'm not sure we made it clear. The proposal that was rejected by the House of Representatives in terms of Governor Healey's bond bill and this real estate transfer tax for real estate over $1 million to be the tax to be paid, whatever the amount is by the seller, only applies to the amount
above
that is over $1 million. Right. So, for example, if you sell your property for $1.1 million, it's only the $100,000 that is taxed. If the rate were 1%, that would be $1,000. In terms of the mayor's proposal, the mayor's version is $2 million, and the tax, again, is only on the amount over $2 million. Right. So if it's $2.2 million and the tax were arguably 1%, that'd be $2,000 on a $2.2 million sale. And I apologize for not making it clearer when we had the mayor here. Joining us now, though, is Trenni Casey, anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston. Hello there, Trenni.
Hi, guys.
Nice
Hello,
to see
Trenni.
you.
Nice
to see
Casey. So one of the people in your field, the experts on this, think is going to be the Celtics in 5, 6, or 7.
So I originally picked Celtics in 6 because you look at, Dallas isn't as deep as the Celtics, but you look at their two best players, and historically in the NBA, the team that has the best overall player wins the NBA Finals, and that is, no offense to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but that is Luka Doncic. He hasn't always looked it, but
he's unbelievable.
He's unbelievable. He's like the second best player in the world, only behind Nikola Jokic.
And he looks like a middle linebacker.
He does, isn't he? He's a
little pudgy, don't you think?
He's a little pudgy.
He's huge.
I do laugh. I'm like, you have all of the tools at your disposal. You have nutritionists, strength and conditioning coaches, endurance coaches, and you are like gasping for air in the fourth quarter. Like, do some wind sprints, buddy. Jeez,
the thing I've loved about the first two games so far is that everybody, there's been a different star for each quarter, each half, each game. One of my favorite players, who was a huge star in the second game, is Drew Holiday. And the beauty, it's not just how great he played in game 2. He's asked the question after game 1, and I think he gave the best answer I've heard in ages. This is about what it's like guarding Luka Doncic, you talked about. Here's what the interviewer and then Holiday. Listen.
The fact you guys have so many guys that can at least stay with him one-on-one, you don't have to double like teams have in the past. How much does that help in terms of keeping him from being able to have assists? They only obviously have one.
I think it helps a lot. Throwing different guys at him, different guys that play defense differently. Some aggressive, some not, but I think even our white guys guard. So
that is one of the great lines. Isn't that what everybody thinks when you're watching it? This generally slower white guys. They're not going to be as good on defense. And Drew Holiday drills right in and says, even our white guys guard.
Have to guard.
Yeah.
I love that. And I mean, listen, Drew Holiday was brought into this team because he has championship pedigree.
Oh, Milwaukee,
he won
that's
with
right.
Milwaukee.
Sure.
And he's this older, calming, and he's like, listen, when I say older, he's like 34.
That's right. He's ancient.
He's ancient in terms of the NBA, but he is someone who has been there, done that. And then along with Al Horford, who has yet to win a title, those two have really, I think, just been a calming presence, both on the court and in the huddles, in the locker room. Listen, if you were a Marcus Smart fan, it's really hard right now to look at the construction of this team and say, wow, Brad Stevens really made a mistake. And listen, we loved Marcus. He was the heart and soul, and he loved this city, and he, dove for loose balls and got in people's faces when he needed to. But the reality is he wanted to be on the same level as Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Drew Holiday is perfectly comfortable if he scores 5 points in a game or if he scores 25 points in a game. Whatever he needs to do, he's happy to do for this team. It's not about him. It's about the end goal of winning a title. And really, the whole team is like that, because I'm sure you guys watched on Sunday. Jason Tatum is shooting the ball terribly. His shooting percentage, guys, is the worst shooting percentage through 2 games of an NBA Finals since 1968.
For any player?
For any player. Any player with it. Like, I forget what the set number of attempts is, but it's real. He's not shooting well. But
in fairness to him, he's getting, every time as he put it himself, every time he dribbles the ball, suddenly 3 guys come out.
Yeah, but every superstar has 3 guys coming out to him in best. That's the nature of the beast, right?
A little bit. But I would say that, for whatever reason, teams are over-respecting Jason Tatum and not respecting enough the guys around him. So what he's doing, he's such a good passer.
Yeah, he is.
That
he
he's getting the ball, like, to your point, Drew Holiday after the game says, the reason I had 26 points is because of Jason Tatum. So it's really showed the maturation of their star in being able to take a back seat. With that said, I'd like to see him be a little more efficient offensively and maybe score a little bit.
Can I mention one more element of this? Shirley Leung had a great piece in the Globe today about Wick Grossbeck, and I learned a lot.
So I haven't read it yet, but everyone said it's phenomenal.
It's terrific. And the thing I didn't know, maybe it's been out there, but I didn't know it before. He decides he wants to buy the team. He doesn't have the money yet, even though he's a wealthy guy. He didn't round it up to money. He reaches out to the prior owner, Paul Gaston, goes to his house, I think in New York. I'm not sure where it was. The guy, Gaston, says, I'm not selling the team. And Wick Grossbeck, according to Shirley, says, give me a figure, a crazy figure, whatever it is. So Gaston picks a number that he knows Grossbeck is not going to buy into. He says, okay, $360 million, at which point Grossbeck says, deal. and it's in 3 seconds, he had to go back and find the money, which he ultimately did. But if you haven't read it yet, it's a terrific companion piece about the guy who really has been the driving force behind spending a lot of money on this team to get him here.
And you talk about how Wick had to go and he had to get an ownership group. He's not like, we talk all the time about this in our office. Wick is, and again, like I say, Drew Holiday is older. Wick Grossbeck is not as wealthy. He's like a poor sports owner, because I don't think he's a billionaire. I think he's like an 800 or 900 millionaire.
Oh, that's horrible.
But in sports, Jim,
I know.
typically your owners are billionaires more than a couple of times over. And so when they have to take a hit like this, because there are huge luxury tax hits when you pay guys a certain amount and you go over the luxury tax threshold. And now there's the first luxury tax threshold, and now there's this thing called the second second apron. So when they have Jaylen Brown on a Supermax contract, they're about to have Jason Tatum on a Supermax contract. They just extended Drew Holiday, and they still need to extend Derek White, but it seems at least like Wick Grossbeck is willing to do that. And he says this in the piece. I didn't read the whole thing, but we've been talking about it in our email
It's not about making money, he says.
No, it's not about making money. He says, we'll make our money in winning championships, which is the polar opposite. I think we're going to talk about this from John Henry, who was interviewed by the Financial Times late last week, who calls the Red Sox an asset. That the reason they continue to own them is because there's an asset. Like, there's just not the joy and the love and the passion. Like, Wick...
The guy has won... I agree. He's won 4 championships after 84
I know,
years,
but that doesn't mean you all of a sudden get to throw up your hands and say, like, you guys don't go, oh, well, you know, we won the ratings for 5 years in a row, so I guess we can suck now, and we're just not going to... Who cares how we do... Like, you still put your heart and soul into your job because it's your pride, it's your joy, it's a reflection of who you are. And John Henry has just gone to the point where it's like, oh, well, I don't really feel like spending a lot of money. And then he has these, sorry, we're even going to talk about this?
No,
or not
really.
I've completely gone down.
Because I want to go, can we stay in basketball?
Yeah, it just makes me so angry. It makes me really mad that he just refers to it as an asset when it is a point of pride for the city.
So I was talking to a mutual friend of ours yesterday about the Celtics, of course.
Who?
His name is Chris.
Oh,
and
I know who he is.
And he was mentioning to me that Jaylen Brown is he could have gone to Kansas as an undergraduate. He decided to go to UC Berkeley, one of the best colleges in America. He's in a robotics class at MIT in the off season, and he's a really academically smart guy, which seems very unfair to me. It seems to me you shouldn't get to be a genius and a superstar basketball player at the same time. But apparently he's got both going on.
Some people have it all.
Yeah.
He is. Listen, Jaylen Brown is very proud of the way that he was raised and how he was raised, not to just be an athlete, but to be a student as well. And that it was really emphasized in his household how important education is, how important higher education is. And to Jaylen Brown's credit, and he does it pretty quietly, he has really reinvested in the city of Boston. Like, when he signed that huge Supermax deal, he's the highest paid player in the NBA after the deal he signed last year. He won't be for long. Somebody else will sign a contract this offseason, and it'll blow him out of the way.
He was in the robotics class when he found that out, apparently.
Oh, he was in the robotics class?
By the way, one more
thing
about him.
But he invests into educational programs for kids who grew up like him in inner cities with single parents who didn't have a lot of money and who didn't have a lot of opportunities. He constantly stresses to kids that your only avenue is not sports. I'm blessed and I'm lucky enough to play sports and make money that way, but he really stresses to in particular young black kids and young black boys that there is a whole world out there for you, whether it's STEM, you can be president, you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, you can be whatever you want. Because so often he says in those communities, it's like, oh, well, you can be a football player or a basketball player, and if you don't do that, then good luck to you. He really has reinvested in those places.
One last thing before we take a break here. And what did he do almost immediately after George Floyd was murdered?
Yep, went down to Atlanta.
He drives in a car, doesn't take some private jet,
nope.
Drives in a car to Atlanta to go to a demonstration around Black Lives Matter stuff. I mean, the guy is the whole package.
He walks the walk.
He really does.
And talks the talk.
I really have great admiration for him. We got to take a break, Marjorie.
Okay,
we'll get back to Caitlin Clark.
Yes, we get back to Caitlin Clark, and I'm
horrible.
So upset about this. Anyway, we'll get back to that after the break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7. We are back at the Boston Public Library finally, and we're talking with Trenni Casey. So you have probably heard, we are part of National Public Radio, and National Public Radio across the country is losing sponsorships. We have, WBUR has, people are spending their money at Facebook and Google and Spotify and all those places, Amazon too. So if listening to this radio station is something that matters to you, these are hard times for National Public Radio, and we hope that these are times you might be able to contribute whatever you feel you can if you like listening to this kind of media and you want to keep us on the air. Right now, we have, when you support GBH for $10 a month, that's the Sustainer membership, we have our Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. Now, I must say, Jim does not look nearly as smug as he usually does
sort
on
of
this
sad,
radio.
I know. I'm not as smug as usual.
So you're almost smiling here instead of looking down at people disdainfully. So this is not, I would have to say this is the Smug Light mug, but nonetheless,
it's okay.
It is a nice, big, heavy mug, black mug. blue letters on it, and it's a picture of me and Jim, and we are verifiable, reliable, and undeniable.
What's it cost to get it?
Oh, I just said.
Oh.
$10 a month. That is our present for today, or our enticement for today, or whatever you want to call it. It has the GBH and BPR logos. But again, this is a tough time for National Public Radio. That's what we're part of. So if you can do it and support us and the TV stations, the TV shows, I should say, that GBH runs, that would be great.
And you go to gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424. This is the only time of the year during Pledge that we actually read positive comments, which make us really happy. I'd be lost in this chaotic world without Jim and Marjorie to calm me down occasionally. That's Pamela from Green Harbor, wherever Green Harbor is.
Just occasionally,
Thank you.
I guess.
By the way, not one of these people is bad-mouthing me, which
Not
means
yet.
we must not have the full
Hope
list
springs
of
eternal.
things. I'm a loyal listener, a big fan of Jim and Marjorie. This is a good one. That's Daniel in Plymouth. Maria in North Kingstown says Jim and Marjorie are the best friends I've never met, which is pretty good. And one more, Michael from Montevideo. That's not really. Oh, I'm from Minnesota and listen each day online. I love listening to Jim and Marjorie. Thank you all. It means a lot to us and a lot to our colleagues as well. And if you can see fit to make a contribution, and if you have an interest in the almost smug mug, I think it's the 4th iteration, I'm not sure, it's 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Brody and Marjorie, and we're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We continue our conversation with NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey.
So you were just talking about Jaylen Brown's great mom and the influence she had on him. Somebody must have had a great influence on Caitlin Clark, because she's a basketball superstar, and for reasons I hope you're going to explain to me, apparently she wasn't good enough to make it to the Olympic team in Paris. But listen to what she says. Honestly, oh, do we have the sound of her?
We do have sound,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, here she is.
I'm excited for the girls that are on the team. I know it's the most competitive team in the world, and I know it could have gone either way of me being on the team and not being on the team. So,
what was your level of disappointment not having getting your name on the roster?
honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. It's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there.
Boy, that wouldn't be me, let me
It would
tell
not.
you.
All I could think of when I read that was I could imagine if you're in the pinochle team or something in high school and you were thrown off. I mean, this woman is quite incredible, and she was shoved really rudely by a teammate.
Rudely.
Well, she was.
Well, that doesn't,
Lots of
the
people
shove
get shoved.
that has nothing to do with her
Why is she
making
not
it.
on the
So
team?
she's not on the team because there's sort of seems to be two reasons. Rebecca Lobo, who of course is now a WNBA analyst, she played at UConn. She, played for Team USA at one point in her career, WNBA star as well. She explained it as, and so did Christine Brennan in USA Today, that
She's great, by the way.
typically Team USA likes to have women who go through the entire process, which means you're at the training camps, you get used to each other, you have that practice time together, and they pick the best players at that time. Caitlin Clark is not one of the best WNBA players right now. She was one of the best players in college. She is not one of the best WNBA players. No rookie from the WNBA this year was chosen for this team. They're all veterans.
Okay.
So that is the reasoning that they're given. But Christine Brennan was also told by an unnamed source that part of the reason she wasn't, even though they knew it would probably drive ratings, is that she wouldn't play very much, and they thought there would be backlash from her fans, that people would be upset that she wouldn't get in until there's 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. And if that's the reason, that's stupid, right? Who cares if people get upset about it? If she's good enough to be on the team, then she's on the team. Now, if it's the former reason that Rebecca Lobo gave, which is also what we had Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated on my show last night, and he explained that as well. He said for as long as he can remember, it's always been the women who go to these training camps and the practices, and those happen at the end of the college season. So she, of course, was still playing basketball and not able to participate. So it's not really a snub. I think it's seen as a snub because of everything else that's happening to her right now. But the women that they picked to represent Team USA to try and win gold again are the best players in the WNBA.
One of the women from UConn is 40 years old. What kind
Diana
of 40-year-old
yeah.
plays? Now, let me say,
women last longer, Jim.
Let me say, so to speak. Let me say two things here. One, from what I read, a ton of number one picks in the WNBA in Olympic years
have
been
Taurasi
chosen.
did play in her rookie year.
We spent a lot of time, and I'm proud we do this, thanks to you, talking about promoting women's professional sports, hockey, soccer, whatever it is. The one sport that has exploded in the last couple of months is the WNBA. And the notion that you would not, even if she's only the 14th best player or the 18th best player, not put her on a team and ensure that everybody is watching, whether she gets in or not, to help promote women's professional basketball.
Well, and that's where I think
insane.
I agree. That's where they missed the mark. Like, you have this opportunity to once again grow your game.
Exactly.
And although somewhere I read, and I don't remember where it was this morning, but I read somewhere and they had a great idea. They said NBC should hire her.
That's a great
and
idea.
have
That's
her
a great
be an
idea.
analyst on the games, or have her go on with the Today Show. Bring her out there, have her there, and then at least there's some sort of tie with
why
her.
don't you're broadcasting some of the Olympics. Why
I
don't
would
you
love
invite
to
her
have
yourself?
Caitlin. I don't
I'm
think I have
serious.
that kind of power, but I would love to have Caitlin Clark be an analyst on my show and sit with me
By the way,
and break it down. That would be amazing.
By the way, that'd be a fabulous sort of compromise, I think. But the other thing is, most of these games, correct me if I'm wrong, I know if they're playing like, I don't know, what are the great women's? Is Australia great? One of the great, when they're playing a great team might be close. They generally win by like 30 and 40 points in the
it's usually
Olympics.
like not. Like,
so
she
when
would
they're
get
up
in late.
27 points,
put her
we're in for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that's what Christine Brennan wrote a column. Like, they missed the marketing mark on this one, right? Like, maybe it wouldn't have been the best roster decision, but in terms of wanting to grow the game, but you do have to balance, Jim, and this is what's frustrated me about the whole Caitlin Clark, experience thus far is, all you hear from WNBA players is that they want to grow their game, but yet they're mad of how it's growing and why it's growing. And I understand the frustration. I do, but there's also has to come a time where you say, okay, well, listen, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity, and I'm going to show everybody how good I am and how good my team is and how good this league is, since we're getting all this attention anyway, as opposed to just being angry about why you're getting the attention.
Especially, as Marjorie said at the beginning, how gracious she was when she said, I'm not disappointed at all, which is obviously total BS.
She really has.
Not to mention when she slammed to the ground by that Kennedy person a couple of weeks ago.
Carter Kennedy?
Whatever her name is. She doesn't strike back at
Kennedy
her
Carter.
either.
Okay, so the bottom line is I shouldn't be as worked up into a frenzy.
Yes, you should.
As I was before.
Listen, it wasn't like, again, it's not a snub to her like the hip check. It's not that. It really is just based on basketball things. But you can get worked up and say, like, you're missing the mark here, Team USA and WNBA. You have an opportunity here to continue this momentum.
Yes.
However, I will say Christine Brennan did make a really great point in her column on this. Caitlin Clark has been playing nonstop basketball. This time off is actually really going to help her. Like, she needs to rest. Like, athletes, their bodies, even when you're young, your body needs to rest and recover. She's had no rest or recovery time. This is going to give her 3 weeks to rest, recover, and play with her team. Like, the reason
Is Angel Reese paying you money? What's going on here?
No, I'm just telling you what someone who's much smarter about these things, Christine Brennan.
She is fabulous.
She's fabulous.
You're pretty decent
what
too,
she
by
said
the way.
about it. And I agree with her. Like, there are some benefits for Caitlin Clark not being there. And do you know what she did when she got snubbed on Friday?
Caitlin Clark.
Girl went out and scored 30 points.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that her top scoring game?
Top scoring game. She went out and scored 30 points. And she said, fine, you don't want to put me on the team? Like, this will motivate her. It's okay. She's got a long career ahead of her.
Where are you going to move to?
Just motivation for 30 seconds.
Okay, really quick.
Jaylen Brown, who's been beyond spectacular in this series.
He's my MVP so far.
He's snubbed, doesn't make one of the top all NBA teams.
Yeah,
all the
NBA
sports
defense.
losers on the radio say it's going to motivate him. I say it's BS. It has totally motivated him. The guy has been incredible. In any case, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, so I can't be the only person that never heard of the Savannah Bananas.
You've never heard of the Savannah Bananas?
Great.
I knew the Globetrotters. I got to see them once when I was a kid. But tell us about the Savannah Bananas, who they are.
Did anybody in the audience go see the Savannah Bananas at Fenway? Yes.
Oh, my God. It was sold out, too, right?
It was a lottery. It was so hard to get tickets. I have a friend who went and saw it. She said the place was electric.
That's great.
They had gone to a Red Sox game the weekend prior, and she was like, it was like a mausoleum in there. Like, nobody cared. The Red Sox are terrible. And then you go, and the Savannah Bananas, and they're like the Harlem Globetrotters, right? So it's like entertainment baseball. Like, they play, the rules are different. Like, one of the rules that's my favorite, if you hit a foul ball and a fan cleanly catches it, you're out.
Oh, that's
like,
great.
So it's fan,
that is
like they get up
fabulous.
into the stands, they dance with
really
people,
great.
and then they do the scoring by inning. So whoever wins the inning you get a point, and then you reset for the next inning. So they lost to the Party Animals 4-1, but they are like they are crazy. They're so popular. There was a viral video last week of one of their players doing a dance to "I Can Do It With a Broken Heart," which is one of Taylor Swift's songs from her new album, and they're so fun. They have like a woman on stilts who hits the balls. Like listen, it's a little cheesy and whatnot, but I mean, it's certainly better than the baseball we're watching at Fenway right
also
now.
they had some former Red Sox like Bill Lee, Spaceman Lee, who's a mere 77 years old.
Jonathan Papelbon was there.
Johnny Gomes.
Participated. So yeah, they had some former Red Sox that got into it.
Did you ever have the Globetrotters on your television show?
No.
I had them on when I was at NECN. I had them on. I was so nervous because I'm fairly tall, so they would think maybe they were passing me the ball on live television. I couldn't even catch the damn ball.
Oh, because it was like so fast?
No, it's because I was in total panic. And by the way, if you never saw the Globetrotters, they are so much fun and they're so talented.
Oh, they're great.
It is unbelievable.
I remember when I saw them, they picked a kid that was like 6'8".
Out of the crowd?
But he was very tall, like 6'8", and he could not play basketball. And I felt
you're looking
so
at
bad.
a 6'5" guy who's in the same range. Trenni, it's good to see you.
You too, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the
See you next
Celtics.
week. Okay, we've been speaking with NBC Sports Boston, Trenni Casey. Thank you very much, Trenni, and good luck to the Boston Celtics. Up next, CNN's John King. Hunter Biden was just convicted guilty on all counts in his trial. We're going to hear all about that, the impact, if any, on the campaign. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
Okay, as Marjorie said, we have the smug mug, as I believe you call it, the enticement to make a contribution. It's usually the last day of the pledge. This is the first day of the pledge. I don't know if it's going to reappear, but I know it's available now. It is a quasi-smug mug. As Marjorie says, I don't look quite as, what was the adjective used before?
I said smug light.
Smug light, that's what you said. And it is sort of a smug light kind of thing. It's actually a very nice mug, 15 ounces. It's got nice heft, which is hugely important to me. And if you're of the mind, to make a contribution of $10 a month or $120 all at once, you can get this thing. By the way, I take it back. It says right here, it's only available on the first day of the drive. That would be today. After 7 p.m., it goes away for the rest of the membership drive. So if you're into this, and some people are, it's 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
So, we are what you call legacy media, right? Newspapers are legacy media.
Correct.
Radio is legacy media. Some of the people that were nice enough to make comments before were saying how they feel like we're their friends, and that is a unique thing.
Don't you feel that way about them?
Well, I think it's unique to radio.
I agree with that, totally.
You've been on TV, I've been on TV, I've been in newspapers, you haven't been in newspapers, but you get the idea. You don't have those relationships with people because radio is a very intimate thing.
It is.
But as I said before, all legacy media, newspapers and radio like ours is being threatened because people are on Google and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to keep going what you've got here, if you like what you hear, 888-897-9424 is the number to call or give online at gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library, finally, and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Do we have any idea? I mean, we have fans today, which is good. Do we know when the air conditioning is happening? Supposedly tomorrow. We'll check it out. In any case, but it's bearable here, so please join us today, tomorrow, Friday, whatever. Joined now on Zoom by John King, CNN's chief national correspondent. He's behind two great reporting projects this election season, all over the map and the battleground, but much more importantly, he appears in one of the cutest ads on CNN I've ever seen. With him at the magic wall with some little kids asking him questions. It's great, John. It's great to see you.
So it's my cupcake do-over. They're remaking me a softer, kinder, gentler.
Yeah. I think it's
great.
Adorable.
It's really adorable. It is
very
great.
Cute. So
the young actors who were there that day were just spectacular. It gives you faith for all the cynicism we have. You see these great young kids who are great students at their schools, but who are also trying to learn acting and everything. And it was just amazing to be around them.
Well, it was great to watch.
How old were the kids?
Those kids are like teenagers, just barely, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They were great.
Yeah, and smart and precocious, and they were great. They were really fun.
So were you.
So, John King, it did not take a jury very long to find Hunter Biden guilty on all counts. He was accused of lying that he was not an addict when he bought a weapon. That's against the rules. What do you make of the verdict? What does this impact, if any, on the campaign? What do you think?
The impact on the campaign thing is interesting. Itself, convicted on all 3 counts. Hunter Biden won't go to jail for 25 years, but the charges carry prison up to 25 years and up to, I believe, a $750,000 fine. So we're talking about serious charges here. It'll be several months, at least, before a sentencing. There will be appeals filed and all of that. How does it have an impact on the campaign? I think Donald Trump has used this, and I know for listeners out there, especially listeners out there who support President Biden or who are critics of Donald Trump, there is no comparison to the charges against Hunter Biden, to the charges against Donald Trump for stealing classified documents he wasn't supposed to take, or for trying to, if you believe he was involved in January 6th and the insurrection, trying to steal a country, overthrow, stage a coup, stay in power. What we just saw in the hush money campaign finance violations in the Stormy Daniels. I am not equating them by any means, the severity of the charges. However, Trump has been very effective, essentially in making the argument, my words, not his, we're all corrupt, we're all crooks, but I'm your guy. I will fight for you and your issues. So we'll see how this plays out on the campaign trail. I will point out one big difference. The verdict came down just a short time ago. Donald Trump says anything that goes against him is rigged, corrupt, horrible. The system is crooked and cooked. The president of the United States, Joe Biden, just said he empathizes and loves his son, but I will respect this verdict and respect the system. That is a giant difference.
Yeah, I almost think it will cut into that argument that Trump constantly makes about the system being rigged and Joe Biden orchestrating things like a puppet master up there somewhere, because obviously it didn't work out for his son Hunter. So I think the weaponized Biden Justice Department going after Hunter Biden and Democratic Senator Bob Menendez and Democratic Congresswoman Henry Cuellar. That's a tough circle to square for Republicans, isn't it? It's very tough.
By the way, did you just mention, John, if you did, my apologies, that also, unlike Donald Trump, who has pledged to pardon these so-called January 6th hostages, which is as offensive a term for a guy who has law enforcement support in particular as it gets, that Biden has specifically said he would under no circumstance pardon his kid. I'm right about that, correct?
Yeah, I did not mention that, but he has said that. He has said he will not, that he will essentially respect the verdict, and that, look, I think a lot of people would think that would be a conflict, but the president has said he will not do that.
John, we've asked you a question like this before, and I don't want to characterize your emotions, but I have to say every journalist who we respect, and you're at the top of the list, who's on the show, when we bring up the mental status of and whether there is a mental illness issue with Donald Trump is uncomfortable, and I understand that. But I thought Eugene Robinson in the Washington Post did a terrific piece and made the point, he quoted from a speech that Trump gave to supporters in Nevada about his supposed conversation with a boat manufacturer about choosing between electrocution, because there was a battery, and getting attacked by sharks. Here's just 20 seconds of that speech.
I said, so there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards, or here. Do I get electrocuted if the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking? Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, nobody's ever asked me that question.
Of course they haven't. And John, I thought Robinson made a wonderful point, which was if Joe Biden had said that 23 seconds, all we would be talking about is the guy is totally gone, has no idea what he's talking about. I think we've failed. I understand it's a really touchy and difficult topic. We're not shrinks. He's not our patient. I think it's a real failure on our part that we as a community haven't figured out how to talk about whether or not, to quote Eugene Robinson, whether Donald Trump is okay. What's your reaction to that, John?
I think it raises a fabulous question, Jim, and we've wrestled with this at CNN, and I think it's a question for the industry. And again, Trump gets grace, gets away with, I don't know the right words, with a lot of things that others wouldn't because he does them so frequently that it becomes, it's not new, right? I always say, when I used to briefly teach journalism, I used to say to the young people, reporting's not hard. You take something new, you slap an S on it, you got news, right? So you need new for news. And so that Trump is erratic. I'm not qualified to judge anybody's mental health. I'm just not. Is he erratic? Yes. Does he say things that are way out there? Yes. Does he say a lot of things that are not true? Absolutely. Yes. It happens so often that what was one of the criticisms of the media, legitimate, I think overdone in some cases. I think you have to do this on a case-by-case basis, but that we gave Trump too much attention. We would take his events live, and he got too much attention, and we created him, if you will. Again, we can leave that for journalism schools. That's not why I'm here today. But there has been kind of a retreat almost in the industry that lets only cover him when he says something that is new, if he's reacting to his own verdict, or if he actually gave a policy speech and said, this is what I would do on taxes, or this is what I would do on healthcare. We should cover that. But don't take him live, and don't give too much attention to all the Trumpy stuff. Well, he wants to be president of the United States. Yes, taxes, spending, national security, those issues should matter to voters. But who is that person? Do you trust that person? Is that a steady person? Again, I'm not qualified to make mental health judgments, but is it a steady person? Is it a reliable person? Is it a focused person? Is it a disciplined person? Is it a truth-telling person? Those are all legitimate issues. And I would agree with you that I think we have yet to find, because of maybe past doing too much Trump, finding the sweet spot for doing the right amount and the right focus covering Trump.
Yeah, it's hard, but we're getting close. We're talking to John King from CNN.
So the Supreme Court, some of the members of the Supreme Court went to this black tie event for the Supreme Court Historical Society, including Chief Justice Roberts and Chief Justice Samuel Alito, who's been in the news a lot lately for blaming his wife for putting up this upside-down American flag, which was kind of a staple at the insurrection at the Capitol, and this other appeal to heaven flag, ditto, that was also a staple. So anyway, this is a woman that recorded something which makes me a little cringy, but anyway.
She also lied about who she was in addition to recording.
She didn't say who she was, but she secretly recorded a conversation. Her name is Lauren Windsor. She posed as a Catholic conservative trying to bait Justice Alito. Here's what she said to the justice at this event.
I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of winning.
I think you're probably right. One side or the other is going to win.
Well, no one has any idea what he said.
That was my fault. That was the wrong one. The one I wanted to quote was him saying, when she talks about how people in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness, to which Alito replies about the godliness return. I agree with you. I agree with you. So what do you make of this?
So you raised the ethical questions about, recording somebody without their permission. And again, whatever your views on, Justice Alito, if somebody walked into your house and recorded you, or saw you at a social event and recorded you without your knowledge, I think most people would be pretty offended.
Yes.
At the same time, it comes in the middle of giant questions about accountability and transparency. And in Justice Alito's case in particular, he blames his wife, but for the flying of certain flags at Alito properties that essentially are anti-establishment, anti-government, pro-insurrection, pro-Trump, if you want to extend it out that way. And so he has a spotlight him at the moment, so this will get more scrutiny. I think that there is bubbling in our country, both on the left and the right, on this particular issue, more on the left and in the center than on the right, this idea that our institutions have nobody watching them. Our institutions have no checks and balances, and that I, as the average citizen, have no power over these people. And yet they have a lot of power over me. Ton of power over me, whether the issue is abortion rights, whether the issue is the death penalty in the case of the Supreme Court, and things like that. And I do think that because we have this Trump-Biden race that a lot of people are dissatisfied with, that a lot of these things, sort of the genie's trapped in the bottle, right? But these things are festering. I can tell you from my travels, people do they say Justice Alito this or Justice Thomas that? That comes up only among people who are very, very plugged in. But is there this exasperation and sometimes despair, disconnect in the country that the institutions aren't relevant to me anymore and they don't care about me? So I think there's something brewing. I'm not saying it's imminent, about, well, how can we do better here? Whether it's another push at term limits, another push at whether Supreme Court should be included in term limits, whether they are resisting all these efforts for more transparency about, the money they take and the speeches they give and the travel they get. I think all of that, plus the dysfunction in Congress, creates this environment in the country that the place that is supposed to govern my nation and help me is paying no attention to me and is actually off the rails. The Supreme Court, what power? It's a great question, right? What power? The people have zero power. It's a lifetime appointment. If you didn't play the Chief Justice Roberts part, Justice Alito might say, I'm at an event, I was trying to end a conversation, I just said whatever it was to move on. Yeah. But Chief Justice Roberts was asked the question, similar type questions, and he was like, whoa. That's why we elect people. Exactly. That's not the job of the courts. Yeah. So he gave the right answer for how I think most of us view the Supreme Court. We call balls and strikes. We settle the cases that come before us. Agree or disagree, that's how we vote, and that's how we deal with it. And it's not my job to be God. It's not my job to be a moralist. If you want that, elect those people to Congress.
Yeah, he did a much better job. It was reassuring. Of course, he doesn't have any upside-down American flags on his lawn either. So we're speaking with John King.
He also doesn't have the courage to confront Alito and Thomas for the transgressions.
We're going to be right back after this quick pledge break to talk a little bit more with John King from CNN. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
Okay, we are asking, this is one of our periodic pledge breaks. We're asking today if you can contribute to WGBH, or GBH I should say, if the station is something that you enjoy listening to. We have this gift today. It is a semi-light smug mug. We had, the previous smug mugs, I don't mean to criticize this one, Jim.
It's fine.
In the previous smug mugs, you are really smug.
Yeah.
And you could just look at that and think, I have never seen a guy as smug as this in my entire life. Look at him looking at me smugly. This one, you're actually smiling.
I have a tie on, too.
You have a tie on, so it's kind of Jim. This is not really what Jim looks like at all, let's face it. The smug mug captures him, this one does not. But that's okay. We got it anyway. It's got heft. It is our $10 a month gift if you can be a sustainer, and that is the most... that's the best way, basically, for our budget people to decide how much they have to go for the next year. So if you like what you hear, we'd appreciate anything you feel you could give. The number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And we're also, let me say, we're pretty proud of our colleagues here, not only the on-air people, but the people behind the scenes who make the shows happen. And your contributions
Did you read this
them.
One?
No, go right ahead.
Oh, yes. This is Jim and Marjorie. I love the show's mix of local national news as well as audience participation through call-in blocks and library residency. Fantastic all around. Jamie Bologna does an executive job.
Oh, my God.
Producing. Was that your mother, Jamie? We're not sure. And I also love
Who's applauding for Jamie?
That's right. Jamie Bologna does do a great job. And they also say they love all the great stuff on TV here, Masterpiece Theater, Frontline, etc., Nova, all these great shows. Plus, Henry Santoro on the news.
Okay, if you want to make contribution, gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We are actually at the library, and we're not pouring sweat off our body. It's bearable, so join us. Actually, Diana DiZoglio, the auditor, is going to be here, and we're going to try to coax her into singing. She's going to be here in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, she's got a great voice.
She's also going to talk about her ballot question that would allow her to audit the legislature. We're streaming youtube.com/GBH News, and we continue our conversation with CNN's chief national correspondent, John King.
So, John King, I've read some polling that says that President Biden got a slight bump from the multiple felony convictions handed down by a jury in Manhattan against former President Donald Trump. What do you think?
Perhaps. I would be skeptical of that. There is some data that showed a little tiny movement the president's way. So ask me again next week and the week after, right? Because we've seen these kind of little swings in the pendulum right now. I was just talking to our political director, David Chalian, very smart man, yesterday about some of this and sharing some polling back and forth this morning. looking at our current electoral map, going state by state. So what you mentioned is in some of the national polls and a little bit of swing state polling, you do see a slight movement to the president after the verdicts. If you step back and look more globally, you still have a race that is very close, don't get me wrong, very close and very competitive, but advantage Trump still, which is where I would have put it, in the last several times we've had this issue come up. So let's see. Sometimes it takes time for things to settle in. And the Trump verdict, it's in the rearview mirror, but it's not that long ago. And now you have the Hunter Biden news today. And then 2 weeks from today, or 2 weeks from yesterday, we have a debate. Biden and Trump are going to debate in 2 weeks, a little more than, and so I think we have a race that has been remarkably stable on the surface, right? Very, very close. I would say slight advantage Trump, especially if you go state by state, for quite a while, has some potential moments of volatility in it. One is the Trump verdict sinks in. Now, does the Hunter Biden verdict, it's the president's son, but does that affect anybody out there in any way? And then I believe a big event, Donald Trump and Joe Biden on stage. And you also have, as I'm saying this, I just saw a Robert Kennedy Jr. email today, hoping that he can somehow make the debate criteria threshold in time. That clock is ticking pretty quickly there. But even if he doesn't, still evidence that he primarily, but also the other third-party candidates beneath, with the potential to have an impact on what is again, on the surface, has been a pretty stable race. I would argue that's mostly because so many people aren't happy with their choices, that they're not jumping back from Trump to Biden, from Biden to Trump, because they're not happy. So they're just kind of sitting there going, eh. But beneath it are all the ingredients of volatility: anxiety, desire for change, economic worries, and things like that. So I'm fascinated where we're going. We're just inside 5 months now. I think the debate is going to stir the pot a little bit, and then we'll see.
Speaking of the debate, I would say I have a record of maybe 200 in a row political predictions that were wrong. And it appears that the 200th was my certain prediction there would never be a debate on June 27th because Trump agreed and he was going to regret it. There's no indication, I'll use a double negative. Let me use a positive. This is going to happen, it appears, in 16 days, yes?
Right before I logged on, I was in a meeting to talk about my role in this debate. So we have every belief here at CNN anyway, that this debate is going to happen. Yes, I think it's going to happen. And
good.
I think that is good. Ours is scheduled, and then there's another presidential debate scheduled, and one vice presidential debate that both campaigns have agreed to. Maybe I'm not supposed to say this because I work at CNN and we have our CNN debate, but I hope there are more. I think the American people deserve as many as possible.
One more prediction, which I haven't heard much about. The good news when you wake up this morning, we spoke to Charlie Sennett yesterday, and it appeared that this ceasefire proposal from the President of the United States had no chance. And then all of a sudden, the UN Security Council votes unanimously. And the headlines this morning are, well, maybe Israel and Hamas are going to buy in. If there's no deal, it seems to me the story of the convention in Chicago in August, the Democrats, is going to be the, 100,000 demonstrators outside protesting what Joe Biden has done or not done about Gaza. Are they as worried about this as I think they should be?
As worried as you think they should be, I'm not sure. But are they worried? Are they aware of it? Yes. Prime Minister Netanyahu issued a statement today that kind of suggests that he's open to this deal now and ready to sign on to it. Yet it also has some caveat that Israel would get to continue fighting. He just had a member of his war cabinet resign from the government the other day, so I would be this could be some local politics, in Israel as well that Netanyahu is trying to navigate. Let's be hopeful as citizens, set the presidential race aside, as citizens of the world, let's be hopeful that there can be some ceasefire and end of the hostilities here. But back to the politics of this, to Marjorie's question just a minute ago, did the Trump trial move the dial a little bit? Yes, it did move the dial a little bit. But my argument consistently has been that, yes, Trump has problems in his family. Look at the large number, big percentage Nikki Haley continues to get in late primaries, because some Republicans don't want to vote for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Trump has problems in his family. But the Democratic coalition is always more complicated. And the president has more cracks in his foundation than Donald Trump has in his. And younger voters, progressives, particularly in the state of Michigan, add in Arab Americans and Muslim Americans, huge numbers in a battleground state in Michigan. This is a huge political problem for the president. And yes, one of the vehicles through which those unhappy with the president said they will air their frustration is in Chicago. And so I do think that is another ticking clock for the president as you get closer to the convention. He would argue, rightly so, that he addresses this as a significant global national security policy issue. But there is no denying, Jim, the point you just made. The political fallout for the president here is very real.
Okay, on an up note?
On an up note, thank God for sports. So we get the third game of the Celtics in the finals tomorrow. What are you looking at? What have you seen so far?
I said Celtics in 5 last week. You seemed a little surprised when I did. I'm going to stay with Celtics in 5, but I'd be more than happy with Celtics in 4. And before you let me go, I just want to say one thing.
Please.
During the last break, you were gone for 2 minutes, right, for the pledge drive?
Yep.
I got my smug mug. And so I have the old version of the smug mug. I have coffee with you guys once a week. I rotate my mugs. I have coffee with you guys in the morning once a week. I say some really mean things. I'm sorry.
You do not.
No, but I just got a new one, folks. It's easy to do. You can do it in under 2 minutes.
Oh, John, thank you.
You're a sweet, wonderful soul. John, thank you. We appreciate it. Take care. We'll see you next week, John.
Good luck in the game, John. Good luck. We're rooting for you. We've been speaking with CNN's John King.
Very generous.
Chief National Correspondent, and he's on this wonderful reporting project where he goes around the country and talking to people about their candidate for 2024. And I tell you, it's fascinating to hear what people have to say, especially those who are big Trump supporters, but they are big Trump supporters. Anyway, coming up next, we're going to talk with State Auditor Diana DiZoglio is here. We're hoping we get a song as well. She's going to talk about our efforts to audit, I should say, the legislature and a bunch of other stuff. This is Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
John, the latest taker of the Smug Mug. This is the GBH Summer Membership Drive. We're going to take just a few minutes right now to ask for your contribution. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm joined by Jack Callahan.
And the hour's been going well, and that's great news for all of us who love BPR. Now we're looking just for 8 more contributions, although we got to get them in the next 5 minutes to put the wraps on this hour, the second hour of today's BPR, to make sure that we have the dollars to keep Jim and Marjorie coming into our lives in the weeks and months ahead. You do that by calling 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org. 8 more to go. I love our GBH listeners, members.
Support GBH, and you're going to get the Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. It's a limited offer for just this first day of the membership drive. The mug features a handsome picture of Jim and Marjorie with boxes checked for verifiable, reliable, undeniable, along with the GBH Boston Public Radio logo. So sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month. Show that you're a fan of BPR with this newest edition of the Smug Mug. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Becoming a new member of GBH makes you part of a larger cause, because when you support GBH, you're making a statement that goes beyond one person's thirst for knowledge. You're joining a large and vibrant community of people who believe this station is an important part of what makes Boston special and relevant. Your contribution right now will add to that. Call 888-897-9424 or do what many are doing this hour by donating online at gbhnews.org.
Now, you might be thinking, I'm just going to go ahead and make that contribution later. So let me ask you, when exactly might that be? Now, it's not the type of thing that goes on the calendar, and as much as you rely on GBH, it's probably not going to be top of mind when you're not listening. You've decided it's important to support GBH, so please take those 2 minutes right now to get it done. All we need is basic contact and payment information, whether you want to give online or over the phone. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Hope you make a contribution right now at $10 a month as a sustaining member, or a one-time gift of $120 so that we can get your name on the list to send you the newest, the latest Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. Don't miss out on your chance to add to your collection of Smug Mugs or start yours today. Please call 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And that goal right now is to receive 5 contributions in the next 3 minutes. We need the financial support of everyone who relies on GBH to make this membership drive a success. Please give at gbhnews.org or give us a call, 888-897-9424.
You know, GBH is commercial free and listener supported. That means we're here because you want us here. Now, this fund drive is an important reminder to do your part and make a contribution to radio that you not only listen to, but radio that you believe in. You do that by calling 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And a big thanks to Deborah in Cambridge, who says, ever since work from home, I passed the day listening to both Jim and Marjorie. Love the banter, love all the guests. It's how I get my news. You're probably just like Deborah, and you can support just like Deborah, too. Give us a call, 888-897-9424, or go online, gbhnews.org.
The monthly sustaining membership really is the preferred way to support GBH. It's quick and easy to set up. You just pick an amount for a recurring charge. Comes directly from your bank account or your credit card. Many folks start out by giving $10 a month. It only takes a few minutes to sign up. You can do that right now by calling 888-897-9424. We can walk you through the process, or it's so easy to do. You can self-enroll as a sustainer by donating online at gbhnews.org.
And again, support GBH at $10 a month. You're going to get your hands on the newest Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. It is a limited offer for the first day of this membership drive. Sign up as a sustaining member. Again, $10 a month. Show you're a fan of BPR with the newest edition of the Smug Mug. 888-897-9424. Go online, gbhnews.org.
Wow, we're now down to just 3 more gifts to go before the end of the hour. We got time to do that. We started off with 8 in just this short time. We've taken care of a lot of business. That's the power of BPR listeners coming together and making a gift to help support Jim and Marjorie's time on the air with us. 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org. We can do this. We can do this with your help.
Every contribution makes a difference to GBH, and our ability to inform you of what's happening in Boston and across the globe. That's truly the message today. Participation, giving what you can, really does help. So go ahead, participate. Give us that call, 888-897-9424, or you can go online, gbhnews.org, and thanks.
I'm Zoe Matthews, senior producer for Boston Public Radio, and you and I are listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the library. Stream at youtube.com/GBH News. The air conditioning is not fixed yet. It's imminent, but there are a ton of fans, so it's fine, right? Is it fine? Hello?
I think it's fine.
Fine. Thank you very much. Is it fine?
Fine.
Fine-ish. Fine. Good enough. Joining us now is State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. She's here to give us an update on her ballot question, among other things, seeking to give her office the authority to audit the legislature, and maybe, I'm quite sure this will happen, she might even sing for us. Auditor DiZoglio. Oh, yes, you will. Auditor DiZoglio, it is great to see you. How are you?
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so
to be
much
back.
for being here.
Thank you for the warm
I
welcome.
didn't mean
The
yes,
very
you
warm
would. That was a
welcome.
little rude. I meant we hope you will. I shouldn't have said yes, you will. Good to see you.
Yes,
Auditor.
I will. I will.
Oh, you
there
will.
you go.
Great. Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
So Diana DiZoglio, before we get to the serious business of the legislature and non-disclosures and all that kind of stuff, I asked you before we went on the air, I read this piece about you in Boston Magazine, where you talked about getting in your chest freezer every morning for, in this case, 3 or 4, 10 minutes. Tell us about your morning chest freezer routine.
You sure you all want to hear this?
Yes. We all need help to calm down or zoom up or whatever we need to do. So tell us what you do.
Yeah, I have a few non-traditional ways that I help myself to get through the days up on Beacon Hill, which are a little bit different than I thought they were going to be of late. Yes, I did convert a chest freezer, one of those big rectangular boxes that you see in folks' basements, into an ice bath. And some of you may have heard some of the recent, it's a more recent trend that, folks are doing ice baths and all these other things to, raise their serotonin levels, endorphin levels, whatnot, reduce anxiety and stress. And I thought to myself, man, I never thought in my life that I was going to be the state auditor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I was, thinking that I would be singing or working in a nonprofit or something.
Do both.
Right, but here I am, and I did look into this, and it was, I started looking into this during that downtime that we all had during the pandemic shutdown period when we were probably all doing internet searches of like way more than we probably needed to during that time. And I thought, well, this seems like a really cool idea. I'm going to check this out. And it was Wim Hof was this big, talking about how this reduced stress and anxiety levels and whatever. So I started doing it, and I have to say, I love it. It wakes me right up in the morning. And I have to say, it's probably getting into a 39 to 40 degree ice bath for 4 to 10 minutes is probably the toughest thing I'm going to do in my day. So I know once that's done, it's all uphill from there.
Have you done this?
No,
It is the
but I'm
single
fascinated
most
by it.
painful,
Well,
unpleasant thing for
cold
30
water.
seconds.
Yeah,
It's not
cold
cold
water.
water. It's
Wakes you up.
freezing,
It's freezing.
cold water.
It's freezing cold water. So it's very tough. I think of the Titanic. They're poor. They are. They're floating on their little door. And, with the iceberg next to it, and they all died. But they were there for longer than that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean,
y'all listening are missing Jamie Bologna laughing hysterically.
What is
over
it, in
there.
all seriousness,
my guy
forget
from
Wim
Methuen,
Hof.
of course.
What is it, in all seriousness, without spending the whole time here, what does it do for you? What do you really think it does for you?
I think other than giving kind of the kick of, happiness and joy after you do get out of it, because when you get in, it's tough. It toughens you up, You have a few moments where you are forced to deep breathe. And people who know about breathing exercises and how important they are. You need to slow down, and I am, I'm up here, and folks on the radio can't see me right now, but I have my hand above my head.
Yes, they can see you, actually.
My energy level is really, really, really high. I'm on the go constantly, and, sometimes I need to tell myself to take a breath, breathe, get that vagus nerve, going there. And you sit in the ice bath. It's freezing cold. You can't think about really anything besides the fact that you're in this ice bath. And
except drowning like the Titanic. That's the other thing. You have to think, what a great analogy that was.
You can get out.
Okay. By the way, Catherine Elton wrote that fabulous piece on you in the Boston Magazine.
It was
you
a
should
really
check it
good
out.
piece.
Before we get to the ballot question, which I know is what everybody's interested in, you've been in the job almost 2 years. What would you say what are things that the voters should feel best about in terms of your auditing function? What matters to us that you've done, would you say there, Auditor DiZoglio?
Yeah, I've been working to fulfill the commitments that I made along the campaign trail, right? And I was very clear about what I was going to look at and what I was going to do. And the fact that I was going to work to be the people's auditor and not just go through the basic functions of checking the boxes and, conducting these audits like rapid fire just for the sake of conducting audits, but that we were going to engage with our communities. We were going to engage with everyday working families across our communities to find out what matters to you and then do our best to analyze those issues that are relevant to you. What does that look like? Well, we're soon getting ready to release an audit report of the MBTA, looking at some of the safety challenge. This is not going to be some saving grace for the MBTA. I don't want to oversell it, but it is, something where we were able to look at a handful of things, identify some challenges that we believe the MBTA can work to remedy, and producing this report will allow for the legislature and the administration to be able to utilize all the tools in their tool belt. So our office is doing our part to look at issues that are relevant to you, that you've raised as being important to you in some of these higher risk agencies.
Okay, so let's talk about the ballot.
Well, hold on. I just want to say, the public benefit fraud, you find $4 million, more than $4 million in public benefit fraud, and I think that bothers lots of people.
Yeah, so look, I was raised by, my mom was 17 years old when she had me. I was raised housing insecure. We moved around quite a lot during my childhood, depending on where my mom could find work as a young nurse's aide. Graduated from the public school system in the great city of Methuen. And I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that I had, but a lot of those opportunities were thanks to social services right here in the great state of Massachusetts. I went to, again, public school. I went to community college, which was an associate's degree that I could obtain thanks to our state's investments in families like mine. So I am really, really concerned about making sure that those investments continue to be made for families that really need those services. But those services should not be going to folks who are committing fraud and who are benefiting from our tax dollars fraudulently and trying to take advantage of the system when they don't need services. So yes, our agency does work to root out that waste, fraud, and abuse. And then we work together with agencies to ensure that we are recovering those dollars as much as is possible.
Okay, so let me do a little bit of history briefly, and you stop me whenever I make a mistake, and then we'll get to your ballot question. You want to audit the legislature. Both branches of the legislature say you have no power to do it, variety of reasons, separation of powers, whatever. Then you go to the Attorney General, who would represent you in this matter. She concludes, and it's in this piece by Catherine Elton, she calls you on the phone and says, I'm sorry, I don't think you have the power to do it. At which point you say, well, I'll create the power, I'm putting words in your mouth, the power to do it. I'll go directly to the voters and ask them to pass a law, which, by the way, if you vote for something on the ballot, it has the same impact as if people on Beacon Hill had done it and the governor signed it. And so you have a question, once you submit 13,000 signatures at least, and I think about a week or so, that will be before the voters in November, which would give you the statutory authority to audit the legislature. Did I get it right?
You did a good timeline there, yeah. And
Is that accurate so far?
Well, pretty much. I would say, just one clarifier
sure,
there.
Absolutely, please.
We already do have the authority to audit the legislature. Just to be crystal clear with everybody, our office feels very strongly about this. It is very clear in Mass General laws that our office is actually required to audit these state departments at least once every 3 years, and we do our best to meet that mandate. The legislature is a department of the Commonwealth. That is according to the Constitution, that's according to case law, but they have said essentially that they are not subject to that. They don't believe that when it says all entities, all departments, that means all, and that should include them. And, we find that disturbing, especially since we've presented to the AG and to the legislature 117 other times that the legislature has been audited by my office long before I arrived on the scene, dating back to 1849, which is when the Office of State Auditor was actually created, which says the intent of the legislation at the time was to make sure that the legislature was part of those audits. It actually has been only in recent years that the legislature has stopped being audited, and folks have thought, well, this was never the case, it was never audited, because the books that held all of those audits, they were kept in the auditor's office, kept in the archives. They weren't digitized, so they weren't made public. And we know, in today's day and age, sometimes, unfortunately, if things are not digitized and put on the internet, it's as though they never existed. But they very much do exist.
Okay, but I want to be clear here. Yeah. While you strongly believe you have the right, the Attorney General, who's not part of the legislature, disagrees, so you're going to the ballot. First of all, do you have the 13,000 signatures that'll get you on the ballot?
We're on our way. Please go to dianaforma.com, click on the ballot button if you'd like to help us get signatures.
Say that again, because several people have asked how to do it.
Dianaforma, DIANAFORMA.com. Click on the ballot button there, and you will be able to sign up to volunteer to help us get signatures. And we would very much value you working alongside of us. We can't do this without you. We do have several thousand signatures, but we haven't gotten the amount that we need certified and into the Secretary of State's office.
So there's a chance you may not make it?
We're going to make it. We're going to make it, but I need all hands on deck through the deadline to ensure that happens.
Okay, could you explain to us as clearly as possible? Let's assume you gained the power on the ballot through the voters in November. We'll get to the Constitution in a minute. You gain the statutory power. Give us a couple of examples, really specifically, if you can, Auditor DiZoglio, of what an audit would mean. What would you look at specifically in the legislature that would be of value for the public to know?
Processes and procedures, the financial aspects of how our taxpayer dollars are being spent in the state legislature. Right now, they procure their own version of what they consider to be an independent audit. It's independent really in name only, though, because it is through a private firm that they procure through a procurement process that's not made transparent, that we don't know how they entered into procurement, and it only looks at things that they seek to have looked at and only puts out to the public things that they seek to have made public. Our office would be able to go in to reconcile any differences between what is stated as being spent and what is actually being spent, look at receipts, make sure those receipts are complying with the law, make sure procurement is being done in accordance with the law. Also, we have concerns regarding, again, the issue that we always talk about when I come on here, these non-disclosure agreements. We are actually auditing a lot of different state agencies right now on the use of these non-disclosure agreements. We hear about
Which
it.
you had to sign as a staff person in the House of Representatives many years ago. Then in a floor speech, when you were elected to the House of Representatives, you decided to violate it because you thought the cause was so important. Is that correct?
And I will tell you, Jim, we talk about this at the federal level right now, and we hear about, folks outraged with, Trump's use of these agreements and the way that they're executed and hush money in general, and it being a grave concern to people. But a lot of folks might not be aware that our tax dollars right here in the state of Massachusetts are able to go towards funding the silencing of folks in government who may have been harassed, discriminated against, potentially assaulted. There could be potential cover-ups of potential corruption even happening in violation of the law, because there is no oversight of how these agreements are being used. So in the legislature, we know that at least 33 of these agreements have been executed, but we don't know how much they were for, why they were used, or any of the, information surrounding them to make sure that there was an accountable process and that is an accountable process, so that our tax dollars are not able to be abused by those who are in politically powerful positions.
By the way, to me, this is no different than the Catholic Church getting in trouble years ago for using all these non-disclosure agreements when these little girls and little boys would be credibly found to have been sexually assaulted by priests, and they covered it up and hid it. So who are these parishioners giving their hard-earned money every week to the church that was paying it out in legal fees and non-disclosure agreements? To me, it's the same thing.
Well, this is even worse. This is not voluntary. Taxes have to be paid.
That's a very good
People
point.
didn't have to
That's a
contribute
very
to the
good point.
Catholic Church. I have one last question. I assume you're going to sing "My Heart Will Go On" from Titanic. Is that what you chose? Okay.
I can't compete with Celine.
Okay, that's probably good. But I have a last question for you on this thing. When you've heard this, but we heard it too. When the first time that the Attorney General was with us after you filed your ballot question, I think I have the timing right, but it doesn't really matter. She said, well, even if the campaign gets its signatures and even if the voters approve it, there still are potential constitutional issues. And one of the things I don't understand, and I know you disagree with that, and that's fine, obviously. The thing I don't understand is, rather than going through this whole process, spending a ton of money, collecting signatures, urging people to vote yes, arguably they vote yes, and then they believe the audit's going to happen, why didn't you request that, say, I think I got this right, thanks to Zoe this morning, that one of the two entities that has the power to seek an advisory opinion from the Supreme Judicial Court, either the governor or the legislature, let's say the governor, for example, since the Democratic Party, from what I understand, unanimously at the convention endorsed your ballot question, why don't you say to them, let's get an advisory opinion from the SJC so we don't go through this for nothing? You're nodding at me like you've already done something.
Yeah, we have actually been drafting a letter to the Attorney General's office that we're going to be sending shortly, and we are advising just that, Jim. So thank you for that.
So you'd get an SJ opinion before the vote in November, in theory.
We're talking about the current statute as is. We completely believe that where we are in terms of what the law currently is gives the auditor's office the right to do our job that we've been trying to do without needing this ballot question. The issue.
Yeah, but let me be clear. The Attorney General's position to us, and I'm sure to you, is even if she disagrees with you, but even if you win in November, where there's no doubt there's a statute that allows you to do it, there still may be a constitutional problem. Is that what you want the SJC to clear up before the election? I hope.
It seems as though that the Attorney General is going to continue to side with legislative leaders regardless, and I hope that that's not the case. But I haven't gotten any indication.
But that's not my question.
Yeah.
Is this request that you're making one that would either have the Attorney General, the governor, the legislature seek an advisory opinion from the state's highest court before people vote to let us know if the power that your question would grant you is constitutionally permissible? Is that going to happen?
It is constitutionally permissible.
No, I know
and
you think.
We're fine if that occurs. Our question right now, though, because this is something that pertains to the actual Mass General Law statute, Chapter 11, Section 12. So our question in our legal document is going to be focusing on the current legality and anything that surrounds
Would you
that.
like the Attorney General, the governor, the legislature to seek that advisory opinion on the constitutional issue that they think exists?
I think it's going to happen regardless.
Well, would you support that
they're
request?
Not going to. Sure. I mean,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
honestly, it's something that I think that it's going to go before the
Okay.
courts regardless. And I've actually been asking Jim to go before the courts this entire time to settle this matter because we are confident in our position. And what keeps on getting said to us too, Jim, is that, there's some sort of a separation of powers that prevents us from being able to do our jobs, which is just auditing. It's just auditing. It's very similar to a reporter or a media outlet looking at an issue, analyzing it, and then sharing it with the general public. The reality is, though, is that we're getting pushback saying, you can't do that. You can't do what the law tells you you are supposed to do because there's this separation of power. Let me clarify to folks what separation of powers is. Separation of powers is in place to separate powers, to make sure that we are not exercising the power of the legislature by me walking into the State House as the auditor and passing a bill into law and then saying I'm able to do that. I can't vote on the state budget. Similarly, the legislature cannot sit itself on the bench and play the role of a judge. That's a separation of powers. It means we can't exercise each other's powers. What's not raised often enough is the phrase checks and balances. That's also a phrase, but it gets left out of this conversation far too often. Our office serves as a check on other departments of government. It was always meant to be the case. And respectfully, if there's nothing to hide, why not just in the spirit of cooperation, in the spirit of transparency, let taxpayers know how you're using our funds. It's not your business. It's our business. It's not the politician's house. It's the people's house.
What are you singing? What are you singing? You want to hear her sing or do you want to hear her sing?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
yes, we
what are you
do.
going to sing?
We'll do like a little rendition of something that I need right now, which is for Massachusetts to, no matter what happens in this ballot question, as we continue the fight for transparency and opening up the doors up on Beacon Hill, to stand by me.
Oh,
Stand by
one of my
me.
all-time favorites.
We're ready.
Auditor Diana DiZoglio singing one of the great songs ever, Stand By Me. Here she is.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, Massachusetts, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me.
Wow.
That was great.
That was a cappella, too. Jesus.
Thank you
One
so
more time,
much,
if people want to help with signatures, give us the site one last time, please.
Diana4ma.com. And then click on the ballot button, please. We have just about a week, like Jim was saying, to get these signatures in, to get this issue on the ballot, to fight for a more transparent, accountable, and equitable state legislature through this auditing process that our office conducts. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you
That is
so
correct.
much.
And we have
Appreciate
one of
it.
the most secretive governments in the entire
We
United
do.
States of America here in Massachusetts, exempting people from finding out what they need to know. So thank you very much, State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. Good luck with your campaign. Up next, the machine gun spitting Martha Annalito is back in the news again. We're going to open the lines and the phone and text lines, and talk with you about your best and worst neighbor disputes and how grateful we should all be that we do not live next door to the machine gun spitting Martha Annalito. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You know that interview you just heard? Only on Boston Public Radio can you hear conversations like that every day, commercial-free. Instead, we ask you to step up and show your support every now and then. So pitch in at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
You know what's fairly incredible, Marjorie, as we're entering pledge here? I'm reading these incredibly kind comments from people who were kind enough to contribute, and usually it says, love Marjorie, tolerate Jim. What do you think is in the air? Like, listen to this. Love Marjorie and Jim, says
Wow.
Robert from Shrewsbury. Listen every day on my way to work. Jim and Marjorie brighten my day anytime I listen. Jerry in Sudbury, on and on. This really means a huge amount. I listen when possible, especially enjoy Boston Public Radio. Big fan of Jim and Marjorie and all their regular guests. That's Ansel in Bristol, Rhode Island. Let me just say, we're really lucky to work with some really talented people on our show, for example, the people that make this possible, the wonderful producers and staff on all the other shows on this station, and the on-air talent as well. And if you want to support them, here is your opportunity to do that by calling 888-897-9424 or going to gbhnews.org.
Listen to this. This came in via text from Sarah in Waltham. To support the pledge drive, you should do a laugh track compilation of Jim, Marjorie, and Jamie Bologna laughing, because I think anyone who hears that will be primed to think of the joy your team spurs every day and hopefully want to support it. I look forward to Jamie's cackles from the Peanut Gallery every day.
How come none of our staff has ever said to me, Jim, you bring us such joy? Why have I not?
Jim.
Why have I not heard
I think
that?
Maybe you should get in one of those Diana DiZoglio little ice
Is that
baths
unbelievable?
and meditate on the state of the world in the morning, and you might have an answer.
What is the enticement, as you call it
The
today,
enticement
Marjorie?
is the semi-smug mug. This is a brand new mug we have. It says Boston Public Radio. It has the station colors, black and blue, and it's a picture of me and it's a picture of Jim, and it says verifiable, reliable, and undeniable. And I just want to say before, as I said earlier, one of the problems for National Public Radio, which we are part of, and for us and BUR, the station across town, is that people are turning away from the fact-based news to the no fact-based news, or the alternative fact news, or the lying news, or the no rules on how you get the news, and it's really doing a number on this country. So if you're interested in trying to support those media outlets which try to be truthful and fact-based, this is one of them. So I think it really matters to us, and I think it probably really matters to you, or you wouldn't be listening. So anyway, you can give right now by calling 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. A lot of our sponsorship has gone to places that are not factual, like Facebook and Google, and it's a real problem for us, and it's a real problem for the country. So again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio, live at the library, streaming online at youtube.com/gbhnews. We're thrilled to be back at the library, by the way. So we all know the adage, signs don't vote. But this election cycle, flags put up in front yards are causing a particularly juicy political drama. You'll recall when we discussed the 2 flags flown at the Alito's homes and the neighbor dispute at the heart of it, causing Martha Ann Alito, Marjorie's favorite new person, to become so enraged she spit at her flag-flying foe. So one neighbor puts up an F-Trump flag. Alito's wife responds with the right-wing flags, some spittle, and even calls her left-wing neighbor a fascist, a feminazi. And now, new secretly recorded audio we'll play in a minute has revealed Martha Ann continuing to complain about neighboring flying flags in their own yards. This time it's a rainbow pride flag that she's particularly upset about. The lines are open at 877-301-8970. Call or text. This is really not about her. It's about neighbors. Have you ever gotten sucked into a neighbor dispute of your own? How'd you resolve it? And if you ever reached the point where you were so mad at a neighbor, you could just, spit. The number is 877-301-8970. We want to hear about your neighbor disputes and how you've resolved them or not resolved them, whatever the case may be.
So I want to hear a little bit of the machine gun spitting Martha Ann Alito.
Sure.
She was spitting in her neighbor's car as it were, as it passed on the street. She charged down to the street to get a better spit at the car as it went by. So here she is at the Supreme Court event complaining about the pride flag to this Lauren Windsor. I don't think she should be recording people without their permission, but she did. And so we hear Martha sharing her idea for a flag she would fly once her husband is no longer a Supreme Court judge.
I want a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag because I have to look across the lagoon at the pride flag for the next month. And he's like, oh, please don't put up a flag. I said, I won't do it because I'm deferring to you. But when you are free of this nonsense, I'm putting it up, and I'm going to send them a message every day. Maybe every week I'll be changing the flags. There'll be all kinds. I made a flag in my head. This is how I satisfy myself. I made a flag. It's white, and it's yellow and orange flames around it, and in the middle is the word Begonia. Vergogna in Italian means shame.
Well, there is one disgusting person. In any case, our number is 877-301-8097. I don't want to get serious for a second, but when she says in that quote, and I said to my husband, the Justice, I won't do it because I'm deferring to you, suggests that if he had asked her to take down the upside-down flag or the flag at the New Jersey holiday thing, she would have taken him down, which suggests that she didn't. In any
but
case,
you know what
he didn't.
bothers me about this, in addition to her trashing gay people and saying she wants to put a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag up, but she says when her husband is, quote, free of this nonsense.
Good point.
What her husband is doing is making the laws for everybody in the United States of America. That's not nonsense.
Well, he's not making, I know what you mean. Establishing what are the laws and what are constitutional. Okay, we're going to get off this woman because Margie will talk about her till next Tuesday.
We should all be grateful that we
know,
don't live next door to someone's going to run over and start spitting at us.
So let's start with you, Marjorie.
Yes.
One of my favorite neighbor stories is you around Halloween. Yes, you've told it before, but we have new listeners. What happened to the pumpkins that you purchased?
Well, this was a while ago, and my kids were little, and thank goodness the people that lived underneath us before are no longer there. They're in California, so they probably are not listening to us.
Whatever.
But we came home, picked up the kids at school. We came home in the afternoon, Halloween day, actually, and that was our tradition that we would carve the pumpkins.
Oh, that's beautiful. Your kids?
Halloween day.
Beautiful.
And put them out on the porch. And we came home Halloween day, and my neighbors downstairs carved.
I don't know why I love this story so much.
Carved all the pumpkins.
Without asking.
Without asking.
And what'd you do?
Well, I was nonplussed. I kind of didn't know what to do, and my kids were young enough that they were very upset about it.
And you did nothing.
Mommy,
so
what
wait, you did
happened to our
nothing?
pumpkins? I went out and got some more pumpkins.
Okay.
Like a total wuss.
Do you know that when Senator Rand Paul's neighbor had a neighbor dispute with Rand Paul, do you know what he did?
He charged across the thing and broke his ribs.
Broke Rand Paul's ribs. Now, I'm not suggesting
wasn't very nice.
you should have done that, but you didn't do anything. The number is 877-301-8970. Also, Marjorie this morning was introduced to one of the great platforms, Nextdoor.
Nextdoor.
Most people subscribe to Nextdoor, and it's quite a treat. If you have some Nextdoor stories, generally what I see on Nextdoor is a white person sees a black person in the neighborhood and sends a photograph saying, lock your doors and your windows because there's a great threat. It's not exactly an even-handed, neighborly kind of site as far as I'm concerned.
There's a lot of racism on Nextdoor.
There's a lot of racism.
And a lot of ads, as I discovered when I looked it up this morning. I mean, every like seventh thing is an actual person posting something. But here's an example of the racism on Nextdoor.com.
What happened?
Teenager in a hoodie walking on your street.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
Lock your doors.
Is that...
Black guy with a backpack standing on the corner. Call the cops. That's sort of the tenor of what you hear on Nextdoor.com. But I guess you can find out, a good plumber or something.
Some days you can find a good plumber.
Yep. Okay.
877-301-8970. We want to know about your neighbor disputes, but much more importantly, how you resolved your neighbor disputes. Let's start with Frank in Belmont. Welcome to the show, Frank. Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. I had a neighbor. They don't live there anymore. Her name was Sona. And she's 34.
Okay.
And her boyfriend is Guido.
Guido, yeah.
And
Sona and Guido, I know them. Go ahead.
Oh God.
Yeah. What happened?
So
this is not going to go well.
Sona
I can
is
tell.
Russian, and Guido is Italian.
I figured that. Yeah.
And a friend of mine was staying with us.
Okay.
And left her car in front of his house.
Uh-oh.
So about 7 o'clock in the morning, Zona comes out and stands on the porch, and she throws a whole bag of garbage out onto this brand new car.
Oh,
well, that's not nice.
It had tuna fish,
yeah, fish,
a tin can and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
So,
we agree it's not nice.
went
Guido shouldn't have. Great. What'd you do? Let's hear that. Yeah.
I called the police.
Yeah.
But I went over there and I asked her why she did that.
That's a good question.
She told me that she was a Russian spy come here to kill Americans.
I understand that.
Oh, God. Okay.
Well, that sounds like a hell of a resolution. Did the police ever come, Frank, from Belmont or not?
First, the policewoman came, and then she told the policewoman said, you need to clean this car up.
Oh.
So Guido went in and got her a broom, and she said, I can't do it, I'm blind.
Oh, I see.
And,
well, I have to say, Frank, I think you should stop there because that is one hell of a story already. It's only so much we can grasp in one conversation. Thank you for sharing the conversation with Zona and Guido out there in Belmont or wherever it was. Thank you, Frank.
Here's a vegan couple complaining about the smell of their neighbor's barbecue.
Go ahead. Yeah, what about
invading their, quote, meat-free radius, close quote.
Mm-hmm.
How about that one?
That's it?
Yeah, well, someone, I guess, responded, is there a kale-free radius, too, as opposed to a meat-free radius? And I guess a lot of people don't like the Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on their door. I used to live across the street from a
all you
Jehovah's
say
Witness.
is thank you, but no thank you. You don't have to have like a whole thing.
But the knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell can be kind of upsetting. Like if you're minding your own business in the house and they're trying to, convert you over there.
Can I be clear here?
What?
Knocking on a door is one thing. If the Jehovah's Witnesses who came got a bag of trash with tuna in it and put it in your car, would you agree that goes too far?
Okay, listen to this one before we go to the break.
Yeah.
I was building some cedar stripe sea kayaks.
Oh.
My neighbor broke into my house, opened up the garage to show them to some of his friends when I was away. Did he cross a line?
No, he obviously admires the work you do. I think that's great.
Okay.
We got to take a break.
Okay, we're talking about horrible neighbor stories because I think it's Mrs. Alito, wife of the Supreme Court Justice. Samuel Alito has proven herself to be a vexing neighbor who spits at their car when they drive by. Listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support. So please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
So the people that have donated today, a lot of them leave comments about their donations, and we like to read them because they're usually very flattering. So here's one from Deborah in Milford. Thank you to everyone at GBH. You add so much to every day with all your programming. You allow people to roll their eyes at me and sigh heavily as I begin many a conversation with, I heard something about that on GBH. Or the other day on Jim and Marjorie, and then they quote something from the Revs or Chuck Todd or Bill McKibben, the list goes on. It brings a bit of sanity to my day. Thank you very much, Deborah, from Milford. And Deborah from Cambridge says, ever since, what does WFH stand for?
Work from home.
Oh, work from home, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
pass the day listening to both Jim and Marjorie, love the banter, love all the guests. It's how I get my news. And my favorite segment, Jim, is...
Who's the a-hole?
That is exactly,
Is that true?
that is
what they
exactly
said?
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's the deal. By the way, one more. Ellen from Warwick, Rhode Island says, wouldn't miss the show. It gets me through troubling times. I also love the people that call in. They're very interesting to me. By the way, we feel the same way about the callers and the listeners.
Yep.
It got us through that troubling time of COVID and the troubling time for democracy we find ourselves in. Now, part of the deal is we hope you support what our colleagues do here on the radio station, and if you do, you go to gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424. And today, for $10 a month or $120 all at once, and this gift disappears. This is not our typical drive. At 7 today, it's done for the whole pledge drive. This is the Jim and is this the fourth one? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I think it's the fourth smug mug. It is smug-ish, we think. Smug enough, let's say. It also says verifiable, reliable, undeniable. Well, that may not be true, but that's what it says on the mug. $10 a month, $120 all at once, and you will have the fourth iteration of the legendary Jim and Marjorie Smuggish mug.
Okay, I got a couple of texts here. This is from Jason in Plymouth. We have a miserable neighbor who, when the kids are yelling or dogs are barking anywhere in earshot, will set off her car alarm. Guess which flag they fly in their front yard, says Jason from Plymouth.
You know, we're doing a pledge. Do you know that?
Oh, we're doing a pledge.
Yeah.
Whoops. Sorry.
Okay. The number.
The number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. If you like the text from Jason in Plymouth, I would say this is an opportunity to call in and support Jason and all our other texters and listeners who like to listen to the radio instead of spending all their time on Spotify and Facebook and Google. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio, live at the library. Marjorie and Jim. We're streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. The guy from Belmont said the next door neighbor, Guido and Zona, whatever, dumped trash on the car. Someone just said, it may have been Jamie, doesn't North Korea throw poop-filled balloons over the DMZ? Is that a neighbor dispute? It's a very good question. Our number is 877-301-8970. Can we? This is a good one.
Speaking of North Korea and poop, can I read this one?
You may, of course.
This is from D. I turned a minus into a plus. I live in a condo with a large yard. My neighbor does not pick up after her dog. She also put up a volleyball net. So at night, I went out and moved the poop into the court area. 2 wins since they slipped when playing and end up having to clean up the poop themselves.
That's a pretty satisfying story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Molly in West Newbury, you're on Boston Public Radio. Thank you so much for calling. Hi.
Hi. I live out in the woods. We
Yep.
are on a nice section of property.
Yeah.
We had a lovely neighbor, and then a new neighbor moved in. And he cuts his grass 3 to 4 times a week. He blows in windstorms and rainstorms for leaves or grass. He waters when we're on drought and we're on well. And I wasn't going to call, but right when this subject came up, he came out, and he is now out cutting his grass.
I'm not laughing at this situation. That isn't. So do you ever talk to this guy, or what do you do there?
I did have a conversation, and he can't help himself. He just can't. It's like he literally is like the guy with a pair of scissors cutting a piece of grass. He just can't stand. I think he thought he was buying at Pebble Beach, but we're in the woods, and it's not very tranquil when this guy comes out. The the blower is non-stop.
Molly, you expressed it beautifully. Thank you for the call.
The leaf blowers, too, if it's on a weekend and it's like 7 o'clock in the morning when people start really early doing that, that's really annoying, too, especially for their gas-powered ones because they're such gas guzzlers. Listen to this one. My next-door neighbor kept a huge bouncy house going 24/7 for weeks. I researched noise ordinance laws before I called the police. When I called, the police asked if I had talked to my neighbor first. That never occurred to me.
Look at you. By the way,
can you imagine being a police officer taking some of these calls dispatchers must get?
Can you answer this question?
What? Remember the person that called the police because she got the wrong cheeseburger at McDonald's?
Yeah.
They didn't give her a double, Mickey D double.
It was outrageous that they didn't give her the right order. Wouldn't you call 911?
I would not call 911.
Here is Mary from Nahant.
Yep.
I think since you were talking about the show during Pledge, we can talk about Pledge during the show.
Oh,
She wants to know if she can get a smug mug. In addition to Jim and Marjorie on it, Guido and Zona on the... Can we see if we can do that? We'll check on that, Mary. Stay tuned and see what we can do. Katrina, you're in a car. You're on Boston Public Radio. Hey there, Katrina.
Hi.
Hi.
Second-time caller, actually.
Love that. Thank you. Hi.
Sorry to bring poop back into it.
No, that's fine.
That's my story.
I hope you do.
As well, I was afraid it'd make me look like the bad guy, but...
That's okay. We'll decide.
So I formerly lived in another state, in another part of the country.
Yeah.
And especially during the 22 midterm elections, I got really annoyed by a neighbor around the corner from me who was proudly a member of Proud Boys.
Oh, that's a problem.
Would have, and every once in a while, often actually, I'd walk by with my dog and there'd be 10 pickup trucks instead of the usual 3. So I started just making it look like an accident, but leaving my bags of dog poop under the tires of the pickup trucks on the street.
How did that make you feel? Katrina, how did that make you feel?
It made me feel great, but then also kind of scared because a guy like that has cameras.
Well, weren't you worried about... those guys...
Those
guys are fairly violent, or can be anyway. Were you worried about the repercussions or what?
That's why I said I always made sure it looked like an accident.
Excellent.
I looked like I wasn't paying attention. I just dropped it.
Well,
but they were big flag
flyers.
runners as well.
Yeah.
Let me sneak
all
this.
All kind of flags.
Katrina, thanks for telling the story.
Let me sneak this one in really quickly.
Please.
One of my neighbors was an old Yankee farmer in Maine. When the Jehovah's Witnesses would come to his door, he'd engage them in conversation as long as he felt like it. And when he had enough, he'd say, "Tell me, do you believe God can save a whore?" When they said yes, he'd say, "Would you have him save me one for Saturday night?" That was the end.
That's really not.
That was the end of the exchange.
That's like a joke in the Catskills in the 1940s.
Well, you spent a lot of time in the Catskills. I thought you'd like it, Jim.
Look at Marjorie laughing. It's the happiest she's been, like, in weeks.
Okay.
Do you have any more you want to say?
Oh, yeah. Here's another good one.
Okay, good.
Neighbors live in a corner
Lines are
lot.
full.
One neighbor had a yard sale in our yard without asking, so I mowed around them while they were having a yard sale.
Oh, that's really good, actually, too.
Another one used to ride their snowmobile in the yard. The other had a 5-foot toy white tiger from a fair in a tree in our backyard for 4 years. We finally moved, says Bruce from Boxford.
Here's Anonymous before the break. After an incident with our neighbor, we made a peace offering with a jar full of homegrown weed. It has all been good since. So that is a cure for what ails your relationship with your neighbor. Let's take a break.
Okay, we are taking a break. We're going to keep talking about this a little while longer after the break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
So here's the deal. We have a $10 a month donation. We'll get you this smug mug. If you're into these smug mugs, this isn't as smug as the other
People are
ones,
into the smug
but it
mugs.
could be like a collection. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Jim?
collection. I know exactly
And
what
you
you
can say
mean.
they're smug, more smug. Oh, I can't believe it's quite that smug. And then you say, oh, wow, Jim is really not looking too smug today. And there is this one we have right here. It says Boston Public Radio. He's got a shirt and tie on. He's all dressed up. So
Semi-smug, as you say.
Semi-smug. It's smug.
a little condescending.
It's smug. It's a little condescending.
It is.
Because,
I am who I am.
You are who you are.
Exactly.
But anyway, it's a pretty nice mug is the bottom line.
Mhm.
So if you're interested in that and you're interested in supporting legacy media, which is what we are, fact-based media, which is what we are, we would really appreciate if you can donate whatever you got. I mean, $10 a month may be too much, but you could give us $5 once. That would be great too. 897. Oops, that's the wrong number. What is the correct number?
I'm not telling you.
888-897-9424. gbhnews.org is the place where you donate.
Can I tell you something? You have the
What?
mug turned towards me. There is a smug factor, actually.
Well, Jim, I mean, let's
Yeah,
face it.
I know what you mean. Let's face it, exactly. In all seriousness here for a second, everybody at this place, those behind the scenes and those on the air, work really hard to do the best they can for you. We like to think we're among them. Morning show, the afternoon show, Jeremy in Paris in the morning, Arun in the afternoon, the fabulous new culture show with Jared and all his colleagues, James and Edgar and Callie. If you want to support the work they do or the people who support their work on air, the great producers and others, here's your opportunity to do it. Contribute what you can. As we say, we know there are tough times and all that goes with that, but we really would urge you, if you believe in the work that they do, and we assume you do, then please make a contribution. What's the number again, Marjorie?
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH. It's our first day back at the library in weeks, and we're really happy to be here. And we're talking about neighborly or unneighborly disputes prompted by Marjorie's new hero or heroine, Martha Ann Alito, who is spitting at moving cars.
That's right.
And saying that she's appalled that she has to look at the pride flag across the lagoon. An anonymous texter says the following: when we were away, our neighbor cut down, this is outrageous, cut down our border trees, which were ours. We took them to court and won. My husband discovered that horrible neighbor was on his flight. This is great. My husband proceeded to tell the entire coach cabin about the a-hole in 16C who cut down our trees. One of my husband's happiest moments. Is that a satisfying story or what?
That's a great one. And Mike in Walpole is texting, and he's right. I got the idea from the machine gun spitting Martha Alito from Mike in Walpole, who said she spits like a machine gun, patooey, 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 and I've been using it ever since. Listen to this. Years ago, our neighbor would run his leaf blower for hours on end. If his leaves were gone, he would then use a leaf blower on pebbles. We asked several times if he could wrap it up, baby was sleeping, etc., but he wouldn't. The last time we asked, His wife stuck her head out and said we were harassing them. Finally, he ran the blower too early in the weekend, and we were able to have the cops shut it down. You know, that is a rule. You're not supposed to start, I think, what is it, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock
Depends
or
on the
something like
community,
in the morning. Maya from Somerville, thank you for calling.
Hello, Maya.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Hi.
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 Thank you so much for taking my call.
Pleasure. You sort of sound surprised, but you know that you called us, right?
Yeah.
I know.
I think I did.
I think you did. Go ahead. Continue. We're glad you're here.
So I have a story from when I was back in college renting an apartment here.
Mhm.
And I've got to be back then, too. We had received an email from our landlord, and I was living in the upper floor of a duplex. We received an email from our landlord kind of vaguely saying that we can't use our washer-dryer because both units in the duplex had in-unit washer-dryer machines. And so they asked us to borrow the washer-dryer in the downstairs unit if we needed to do laundry. And so I came downstairs and I had asked them if I could use their washers. And they were pretty mean to me. And so I went back up and I thought to myself, well, that was mean. And so I went and decided to use our own washer in our own unit.
And what happened?
And then about 20 minutes later, I hear yelling coming from downstairs and feet thumping up the stairs to our unit to let us know that their downstairs had been flooded. Apparently, there had been something wrong with the pipe.
Listen to her laughing about the misfortune of others. Go ahead, Maya. Yeah.
And so it was unfortunate. Pretty much just got a slap on the wrist email from our landlord to say, please don't use that washer until it's fixed. But I maintain that if they had just been nice to me when I had asked if they could use their washer, I wouldn't have been vindictive and done that.
Maya, it's a beautiful story. You're an honest woman. Thank you for the call. Here's Patty in Methuen. My husband has not forgiven Jim for opposing the Boston Olympics bid. So I ordered a smug bug, it's a great large size, and stuck it in his office. He was not amused. Now we trade hiding it in each other's offices. That's actually a nice outcome to the smug mug story.
That's very nice, Jim.
It is very nice. Thank you.
Do we have time for any more?
Well, you could read a text or two, I think.
Okay, let me see.
Or do you want me to just take a quick call?
You can take a quick call.
Lee in Connecticut, you have 45 seconds. Take it away.
Okay. I worked third shift as a police officer and came home after third shift to find all my kids' pumpkins stolen off the deck. Next night, I go to work, stop a car, a couple of high school kids filled with pumpkins, read them the riot act, followed them around town while they returned all the pumpkins on people's porches. Came home the following morning at 7:30 to find my deck completely covered with pumpkins.
Oh, that is actually a fabulous story to end the discussion.
Those Weisenheimer teens.
Lee, that was
That's a
great,
great
actually.
one.
That is a great one. Thank you for
I love
calling,
it.
Lee.
He pulls them over. They get all these pumpkins in the car.
And they put them back on all the porches. That's a beautiful story. We're done, Marjorie.
That is very nice.
We're
okay,
done.
we are done.
We're
Thank you
done.
very much
Thank
for
you.
listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. You can listen to us 24/7 by way of our podcast. We have a 3-hour one and we have a half-hour one, best of kind of deal. Tomorrow we're going to be back here at the Boston Public Library with or without air conditioning. We're going to forge ahead with Amari Paris Jeffries and Ibram X. Kendi ahead of the Embrace Boston Ideas Festival. They're going to tell us all about it. It's pretty neat stuff. Harvard National Security expert Juliet Kayyem. 1 year into their ownership of the Bay State Banner, are going to be joined by Ron Mitchell and Andre Stark, who went to their great gala the other night.
Fabulous, yeah.
In a beautiful bowling building in Roxbury. They've done a great job with that building. And Palestinian peace activist Ali Abu Awad is going to be with us as well. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, additional support from our new summer intern, Ariana Gonzalez. Thank you, Ariana. Our engineer is John LaClaw Parker, and our cackling executive producer is Jenny Bologna. Thanks to the BPL team, Maddie Geyer, Patrick Lally, Juan Jose Cadena. Thanks to our host of the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Stay tuned for the Culture Show, which comes on right after 2 o'clock. Right here in GBH News, and thank you very much to all the people who took the time to donate to GBH today.
And to come today.
Yep, we really appreciate it. We thank you very much. People that came down to the Boston Public Library. Thank you very much for joining us. Is that it?
I believe that's it.
I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browley.
Thank you again for listening today
tomorrow.
and coming to the library today. Have a great day.
This is the GBH Summer Membership Drive. We're taking just a few moments right now to ask for your contribution. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm joined by Jack Callahan.
And we have a special offer today. It's the BPR Smug Mug. It's the newest one that we have, and it's only available until 7 o'clock tonight. But this is your last chance to take advantage of this offer while you're supporting your Boston Public Radio listing. So what do you say? Make that contribution, $10 a month as a sustainer, a one-time gift of $120 right now, and we will make sure that you get one of these and note your support for Boston Public Radio. You do that by calling 888-897-9424. Let me say it again because it is our lifeline, 888-897-9424, or safe and securely online at gbhnews.org.
And that goal right now is to receive 10 contributions in about the next 8. Actually, we're running down on about 7 minutes now. We need that financial support of everyone who relies on GBH to make this membership drive a success. So please give online at gbhnews.org or give us a call, 888-897-9424.
Yeah, it really does take just a few minutes of your time to make this really important contribution to GBH. We just need a little contact information, which we do keep private, by the way. You to determine the amount that you'd like to give. You can become a sustaining member or make a one-time gift. But in just those 2 minutes, you'll help make sure that BPR, Jim and Marjorie, are here for us each and every weekday. 3 hours a day, in fact. It does cost money, as frugal as we are with our expenses. Help us out. Call 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And support GBH. You are going to get the newest Boston Public Radio Smug Mug. It is a limited offer, and for to support BPR, you only get a couple of, maybe about 6-7 more minutes to get this done. It is the first day of the membership drive here. Sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month. Show that you're a huge fan of BPR with this newest edition of the Smug Mug. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
I want to thank Julie from Hingham for doing her part. She said great guests and discussions on all kinds of issues. Thank you. And she says thanks to Jim and Marjorie. Well, Julie, truly thank you. Jane from Wakefield, her contribution just popped in. She loves Jim and Marjorie, and she acted on that love. How about you? Time is running away to show your support today on the first day of this drive for BPR. Call 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org. Either way, you're going to help us hit the goal this hour. That's what it's all about, having the money to keep Jim and Marjorie right here for us all.
You listen to GBH and BPR throughout the year, so why not spread your membership out the same way by giving as a sustaining member? You make a recurring monthly contribution from your bank account or credit card, so your contribution keeps giving all year long, and it only takes 2 minutes to set up. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Oh my, we're now down to just 5 contributions.
Because of you and the PBS